who made the possible time to be here. Good morning, everyone. Happy Easter. Welcome again to another session. We did the Active Directory yesterday, so I don't know if anybody has questions from Active Directory from yesterday, or if not, I just put up the video this morning. It should take at least an hour, then the video should be up. You guys should be able to view the video, and if you want to download it on your computers and watch them any other time that you want, you can. Or you can go through the links to that I did send to you guys. You can use that link that I sent. You guys can watch the process, how to install Active Directory, how to manage it. And if you have any question at some point, always let me know. I can walk you through something. I remember somebody had a question yesterday about Active Directory, which I think was you, Jarvis, right? I haven't done the research yet, but I'm going to give you a feedback after. I was a little bit tired of stuff, but I'll give you a feedback afterwards, maybe before the end of today. But just send me a Slack chat with the question again so I can remember. But today we're going to go into file systems. Today we're going to do file system because we're finishing up today with Windows. We're going to do file system. We have rates, and I believe, what was the other one again that I'm missing? Office 365, which I'm just going to give you guys a walkthrough of it because I haven't really walked into that console, but it's something that you guys should definitely know about Office 365 because it's something you're going to be using in your work environment almost every day. And if you can be an Office 365 admin as well, because there's so many branches that you can become an admin for. You can be a system admin in Office 365, Active Directory, a domain controller admin. You can be a Windows admin. You can be a Linux admin. You can also be, I mean, there's so many of them. Server admin. All you do at your job is make sure every server is up to date, running. Some people, Active Directory is make sure users' accounts are created, passwords are set, policies are set. Office 365, same concept goes with them Active Directory because Office 365 almost like Active Directory, but it has to do with more of like emailing. It does more with emailing, like you making sure you migrate users' accounts, users' email addresses with all their contents from on-prem to the cloud services. You guys understand the difference between on-prem and cloud services, right? When they say on-prem means exactly like a actual server. That's like physical server that's like in a data center. Then you send it out to the cloud, which is 365. That's the difference between on-prem and 365. Because 365 is right down the cloud. You guys don't manage that one anymore. That's why I see a lot of companies are going nowadays with 365 because they don't manage it as a server. They want to cut costs. They're trying to cut costs so they can minimize spending. That's why they try to go on cloud because they have a whole company that takes over that management of managing cloud computing. But as I said, today we're going to start with file systems. File systems, I mean, you guys already know some of the file systems that you've used before. And right here, this is my slide that I lost a couple of weeks ago that I was supposed to teach, but I found a way to like redid everything again. It's about 30 slides that I lost because I was working and then I did not save at the end of the day. My work computer had to restart. And now we're back on it again. So if you look, this is exactly just a run through of file system. File system simply means what? File system is just the way you organize stuff, like the way I was showing you guys yesterday in Active Directory. Like you see how when I created a folder or a container in Active Directory, you had the labeling, the naming. As I said, the naming convention has to matter because if you're not there today with the company, somebody else walks and takes over your position. That person has to understand like what you were doing and has to know where stuff was safe. Like if I go to this is my work computer. Let me stop this sharing and I'll show you guys something what I mean by file systems. I'm gonna share a different screen from my work computer. Let me share a different screen then. Okay. Okay, let's share that one. And I'm gonna show you guys something. Minimize this. So if I go here on my work computer, let me just join the network first of all. So our VPN that my company uses, we use this for VPN. VPNing, we use Cisco AnyConnect. That's what we use. So those are one of the VPN that you see along the line. We use this Cisco VPN Client Connect. And other companies use it. There's a lot. There's another one that's called, I think it's Netgear or something like that. That I've used when we incorporated another company. They had another one that was called Netgear. So I had the pleasure to use that as well, which is pretty much based. A lot of company uses that as well. So what I'm trying to show you guys is, yeah, go ahead.
There's also OpenVPN.
Right.
Yeah, it's just to know at least one VPN client that if you ask about in an interview, because if they can ask you if you've ever used VPN, and then they ask you what type of VPN client did you use, so you should be able to at least mention one. There is OpenVPN. You can also talk about the one Kingsley is using right now.
Right. Can you guys see this all right, or is it too small? I don't know if that's too small. So what I'm just trying to explain to you guys, this is a shared drive in my company. The shared drive, if you go, the network drive the name is right here. No, that's just some of my let me show you the network drives first of all. My drives are they're missing. So we have something called Drive Mapper. It's an automated tool. Just gotta run it. It's gonna bring back my drives, my shared drive from my company. But what I'm trying to show you guys here is just a filing system that they have for the company. So we have my different kind of like filing systems in here where we can find informations and stuff. So where we save all of our applications, they are in this drive. If you go in that drive, go to applications, right? You see how this is called a filing system. I have my own folder in here that I save my own programs to as well. I have my colleagues, they save their own program. These are all applications that we install for users in the company. I have it under my name. If somebody, one of my colleagues asks me like, oh, this person is looking for this application that you installed last time on the person's old machine or something, I'll be like, yeah, just go into this drive. This is the drive name. I'm just gonna go into. I just said because we have the short form. We call it $. That's the name of the drive, the shared drive that we have. So it's called the server name is TLBVM581. That's a server name for the drive that we're trying to access. Then the drive that we're trying to access is this. So if somebody asks me like, oh, we're trying to look for this program, I just tell them to go into this drive. I don't know, you guys cannot see that, right? Let's see. Now I cannot see it. But the drive name is up here, somewhere up here. 1 second, let me just move this around. All right, so this is the drive name right here. That's the drive path. This is the path all here. If you want to send somebody to go exactly where I'm sitting right now in this drive, you just give them, you just copy the whole this path, all of this, and send to the person. But there's so many drive also in here for that mapping and other stuff that is mapped. These are all drives. We have drivers also.
I'm not sure. I think your screen is frozen, or maybe it's
Oh
just
yeah,
me.
yeah. It's frozen. I can see from my other machine. It is frozen. All right, let me reshare again back one more time. Yeah, I don't know why this been doing this all the time. Okay, let's see screen 2. Yeah, I don't know. When I always connect to the VPN of my company, it always act up like that. Let's see. Okay. But that was just an example that I was showing you guys about like drives and stuff like that. But it looks like my machine is acting up with a VPN connection. One second, guys. All right. Still not showing anything, huh? All right, let me disconnect this user and then come back again to this. Oh, that's the right one. Okay. Mm, okay, let me see if this is gonna work now this time. Okay. So that actually, I don't know what is happening with, but I was just showing you guys how like the filing system looks like. So that's how pretty much like filing system, when we talk about filing system, that's exactly what it means. And here they say, it simply says here, like I've made a note about it, like I did some researches and stuff. It simply says here, a file system is a method of organizing files and physical media such as hard disk, CDs, and flash drive. So filing system can still be, filing system can still be my hard drive right here, this portable one. This can still be my filing system. That's why I say you guys always have a portable hard drive to save, back up your file in there, like applications, softwares, and any other important document that you need. Like maybe like videos right now for classes that we have right now, you can back them up in here. That's all filing system. And you're saving stuff for like, in case you run into an issue with your computer, you can always have those backed up somewhere. That's an example of filing system. So, and there's so many ways you can save filing system. We have NTFS and we have FAT and exe FAT. Those ones are all used for Windows systems. The HFS plus, then you have EXE and ZFS. There's also another ones. There's UFS as well, which are all used by Linux machine. Those are filing system. That's 5 formats. Those are 5 formats. Those are 5 extension. Like if I go here, let me show you an extension of a file. You guys, anybody knows how to look for an extension for the file, for a file? Can you guys see this, right? So okay, let's say I have this is a document in here. If I want to look at the extension, just right click on it. You go to properties. One second, let me move it over because it's on the other screen. Right here. So this is the properties of this file. You can see the file type. It will tell you the file type in here. That's a file type. If you want to see the file format, where is it? I don't think it shows it in here. No, there's no previous version. Let's see.
Excuse me, what's the difference between the file type and the file format?
File format is the way you put the file to be. The file type is just the extension. Like when I say extension, that means like you know how you have for example, what can I give an example to be like? File extension can be like a picture file. You see how that one says JPEG over there? I can change it to ext. It's not gonna be open because it's the way the file can read. Let me put it that way. So it's a way that the file can read. So you can tell the difference if it's an image or is it a text document. I can take an image now and put it to dot. Like this one is a text document. If you see here, it's gonna be dot txt. You see how it is here? This one is different. It says .txt in here. That's a file format. That's exactly it. But when it comes now to drives, I think it's for drives that you have different, because these ones are just documents. But for drives, they're different. You can tell the drive the file formats are different for drives. Let me see if you can find any drive in here. Okay, these ones are disconnected. Oh. Yeah, I don't think it actually shows it in here. Because and that was, I think that happens like when you're doing like when you're trying to format a drive or you're trying to edit a drive or something like that. It tells you the format. Like if I say format this drive, right? I cannot even format that drive because let me just put in our plugin. I think I have one of my USB sticks here somewhere. Okay, right here. So I have a thumb drive right here. I'm just going to try to see if I can format it so I can show you guys the formats. I know there's a difference between NTFS and then there's also FAT32. So this is the USB stick I just put. So if I go here, if I do format, it's going to ask me how I want to format it to. You see here, it chooses it by default. It chooses to FAT32, right? You guys see how here is FAT32. You can switch it. You see the file type that we have in here, the three file type I just mentioned. These are the three types that I have. They have NTFS, they have FAT32, which is by default, and we have the EX FAT. We're gonna see more details about those as we go down. We go down the slide. So I'm just gonna show you guys how it looks like, where you always find that. And this actually right now, this disk that I have in here, it was formatted to FAT32. That's the original default. I can change it. I format it to NTFS if I want to use it for an NTFS document or something like that. I can always change it to a different one. Let's see, get access open. But right now I don't want to format this stick because I have an operating system on it. So, and I can share the drive as well, even if I'm in here. So you can always share, so long as the drive is plugged into my machine. If I want somebody else to get access to that drive and pick up a software from it, I can always just go here, advanced sharing. I can go to sharings. It's just gonna ask me for permission because why? It's my work computer. So, but if my other computer can go sharing here and set the sharing, so somebody else can see that drive. If that person is on the same network with me, the person can get access to that drive. This USB stick, pull out the image from it, then I stop the sharing. So sometimes when you're in a working environment, you don't necessarily have to pick up a stick, run all the way across the other building to go give it to your colleague or something. So those are some of the most important things that I do for file sharing and stuff like that. So make it easy. If you're somewhere using another computer, you can always just map. If you know the drive path is like all that full name that I showed you guys up there. If you know the drive path, you can always map to that drive and you share it from there, get the information that you need from it. So they say for most users, this file system is a most visible aspect for an operating system. It provides the mechanism for online storage of and access to both data and programs. The same thing I just told you guys about like drive sharing. It's all filing systems. Those are all filing systems. When you share a drive, like the network drive that I mapped to earlier, I will show you guys examples in there. Those are all filing systems. And the most important thing about filing system is that you got to make sure if you're creating a folder or a file in the shared drive that you share with your fellow colleagues at work, you want to make sure you name them in a specific way that if somebody walks in there, even if it's somebody that doesn't in your department and just going to look for something in there, the person can easily see what it means by that. Like if say you're going to save a Windows ISO image in a specific folder, when you go in that folder, it should tell you the Windows ISO 2016. That's the folder name. And that has to do with naming convention, as we said earlier. You have to name the folder in a way that somebody can walk in there, easily trace it, and boom, he's done with it. So those are somewhat important things you have to understand too. Then they say, we have to go further, say for operating systems and all the users of computer systems. For example, a DOS, Windows, a Macintosh, all have file systems. As I mentioned earlier, Macintosh simply is for Linux machine, Windows machines. I mean, Apple machines, because they use Macintosh operating systems. So it says in which files are placed somewhere in a heritage tree, and we're going to see the example of like a hierarchy tree in the next one. So these are examples of hierarchy trees that we have for file systems. This one up here, this is a file system for Windows. I could tell this is a file system for Linux machine, a Macintosh machine, because why? You see how it starts with root. When you guys get into Linux, you're gonna understand the meaning of why filing system in why files or systems start with root, because when you see root, the slash root, it means let me say the admin, the administrator of that account. So this filing system, it starts with a root file. Then it has users folders, it has application, it has volume. Then we go down more, it has Kenneth, it has Nigel, it has USB, it has Mac. And you can easily tell that it's a Mac machine because you see how the folders they look different. That's how you always see folders in Mac machine looks like this, in this sort of way. Then the one below is a Windows system, filing system. And here it says a file system consists of two distinct parts, a collection of files, each storing relative data and direct structure, which organize and provide information about a file system. So file system pretty much is straightforward. It's pretty direct. I don't really have to necessarily have to read all through the note for you guys because it's going to take us, we have a lot to cover. But with filing system, it just pretty much gives you the straightforward way, the way it's safe. As I told you guys earlier in a general statement, like it's a whole way of like managing your folders and stuff. Like in here, simply it's telling you that this is the main folder right here. It has subfolders in it as well. The same way when we're doing the concept of like the Active Directory, like when we went to the local machine, when you open it, you have a drop down. That in that drop down, you have other folders in that drop down. That's how you save a document. Like I can go, let's say I can go in here, this folder. So the main folder that I went into was, let's say, okay, these are example of like the picture that you see on the side. This picture right here, this is an example right here. You can go into download or maybe Office document. We see the arrow key next to it. That simply means this arrow right here. So it has a tree. When you see any document or any folder that has this tree next to it, this arrow next to it, that means it has more folders or maybe more files in it. So if I drop it down, I think we want because it's a network file. But right here, you can do this. You see how I drop it down, you see it has more folders in it. I drop down the desktop. Those are just hierarchy way of like saving folders. Like in here, we have PowerPoint. You can double click on it. It has its own folders in there. If we go back, we open this one. They all have hierarchies, like all the way down tree. So if we go to desktop, I minimize desktop right here. This document that I'm in here is this one. So if I go here, let me close all these ones up. Okay. So this is the one that we've just dropped down. We've actually expanded. So I've minimized it now. Let me expand again. So if I click on it, it expands. These are what are inside this the desktop folder. So if you come down here, you expand this one again. That's how the tree continues. The tree continues. So like right here, you see how the tree is. This main folder, it carries this one, this, and this. And then now tools here also carry format, status, and O. And data here also carries these two documents. I can tell these are documents because we can see the extension, the dot. It says .txt. Those are all files. The same thing goes here. That's the same concept in here. So you see how we expand this one, which are all these three documents that you see in here. They're right here on the side. You can expand the tree as well. It keeps going. You just keep going. So those are just filing systems. That's what they call a file system. And you have to have like they call it a hierarchy of the way you manage the file. So here, this is the hierarchy of this file from here. The hierarchy starts from here, from Tom. Comes down to Tom. We have data, we have TC, we have no text, we have tools. And then the hierarchy continues all the way to the bottom. Same goes here. This one has the first hierarchy here. It houses this 1, 2, 3, and then this one houses this 1, 2, this one houses this one, and then this one houses, just like that. You can keep going. The tree continues and it keeps expanding, expanding, and expanding, and expanding until further notice. It does not have an end for filing systems. It just depends on how you want to create your filing system and manages them. So you know that, okay, let's say you create a file system like where operating systems. That's the name of the main folder. It's operating systems. Under operating systems, you have Windows 2016. You have Server 2015. You have Server 2012. You have Server 2019 in their own folders under OS folder. So let's say this main one was OS operating systems. That's the name of the folder, which is the hierarchy top, the top of the hierarchy. Then inside that OS, you come now, you have here 2015, Windows Server 2015. You have here Windows Server 2012. You have here Windows Server 2019, Windows Server 2016. Then under Windows Server 2016, you can, or maybe 2012, you can have in that folder, you have a hierarchy that goes down, says maybe 12R, 12 R2. You have 12 under 2016, you can have 2016 R2 or R3 or R4 or R5. So that's how I just keep going. And mind you, as I said earlier, you got to understand the way you're naming them, because you want to name something in a way that if somebody click on the folder, know that that's what they're expecting by going by the name. You cannot click on maybe say 2016 folder, then you go in there, you see an ISO image for 2012 instead. That means the person that was doing the naming convention didn't do it right, or maybe somebody must have got into the system and tamper with the file and mess it up instead as well. That could happen. So these are just typical the hierarchy of filing system. And we keep going down. So now we have the NTFS file. So NTFS stands for short technology filing system. For new technology, sorry, I said short technology. It simply stands for new technology.
Question, please.
Yes.
I just want to ask, you were talking about naming. Is there any conventional way of naming these files, or you just name them based on, for example?
You create your own conventional way of naming files.
Okay.
As an admin in a working environment, right? You are the one that's gonna come now with your own your concept. You do your own. You create your own concept of naming files. That's how you do it. Like, so in case if you're not at that position, maybe let's say tomorrow you got promoted to become a bigger boss, and then somebody else has to replace you. You're just gonna tell the person that this is what I was doing, and the person's gonna follow your same hierarchy of where you were doing things. Same goes to with if you were walking into a position where somebody else left from that position, they're gonna take from where that person left off. And when you're taking from where that person left off, if the person was a good was naming his was setting his file hierarchies and naming the convention very good, it will make life easy for you for your job and going. But now if you walk in there, somebody was just messed up, the person was messed up, just making things like everywhere, like name this one whatever he feels like naming it, and now you walk in there, you cannot understand. It's going to make your job so difficult for you that you probably want to like redo everything, like go into this folder, rename the folders, make sure now you understand that this is what the person mean by this, because somebody can do them in their own way that they feel comfortable working, because they know that, I mean, they know that tomorrow I'm never going to leave this position, but you don't know what can happen. Things can the tables can turn. So that's just exactly how it is. So for NTFS, I think NTFS is pretty much clear right there. It's a new technology filing system. It's a modern well-formed file system that is mostly used by Windows Vista, like from the Windows Vista all the way up to Windows 10 right now, as I showed you guys earlier. It has a feature-rich yet simple organization that allows it is used by very large volumes. So NTFS has the following properties. NTFS partition can extend up to 16 EB, 16 million terabytes. It's about 16 million terabytes. That's a lot of that's a lot of space. 16 million terabytes. You guys know about bytes, right? So I don't have to tell you guys about, if I just say 60 million TB, you know what that means. Not tuberculosis. It's not tuberculosis. It means, the abbreviation means terabytes, not tuberculosis. So, because someone can be like, oh, TB, it means tuberculosis. No, it's not that. It's not that. So in computer terms, TB means terabytes. Because somebody might walk in here, hear me saying about TB, they'll be like, oh, do you have TB? No, I don't have TB. So it says files stored in to NTFS partition can be as large as the partition. So what that simply means is that NTFS does not have a maximum a partition of file storing. Like if you're storing file on a partition for NTFS, it does not have a maximum partition. And we're going to see about drive fragmentation, what they call drive fragmentation on the bottom at the end of the file system. We'll see drive fragmentation. So when they talk about partition, that means a certain space on the disk, on the hard drive. If you're storing an NTFS file system, it does not have a maximum capacity. It goes by what you're storing at. Let's say, okay, you were trying to use a fragment of a drive. That's about, like, let's say 5 gig. And you want to store an NTFS file on there. It's going to go by that 5 gig space. If the partition was 50 gig, it's going to go by that 50 gig. If it was 700 gig, it's going to go by that 700 gig. That's exactly how NTFS system works. And it's pretty clear right there as it explains to you. It says NTFS partition occasionally becomes fragmented and should be defragmented once or twice a month. That's what I mean by that. Let me just correct that my statement. I'm going to correct it afterwards. It's every once or twice a month, so you have to defragment it because it can take a lot of space too as well. Even though it's a faster file system, but it can take a lot of space. So NTFS partition can be read and write by Windows and Linux systems. So NTFS works in both Windows and Linux system as well too. And it has the different types. So Macintosh X systems by default. So Macintosh X systems is by default. You have Macintosh XO, OS X with an assistance of NTFS 3G drivers. That's just a Mac system, what Mac system uses. So it says partition here, NTFS 3G drivers can be found by here if you want to go more details into it. So NTFS is recommended for all medias whose uses is primarily with modern Windows system. That means from Windows, like as I said earlier, Windows 2000 Vistas, which are the modern.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just like Chavez was asking later on, this NTFS, are there, like, file systems in which specific files must be stored, or is there like a?
It's a file format. It's a format, not the way the file must be stored. File system can be stored, like when you talk about storing files, right? That's when you talk about now of like the .txt, .ext, .xml. Those are the format that you can store a file. But these formats are for like drives and like it says previously on the first slide. It says this for like hard disks.
I heard you told Chavez that you can create your own like synopsis of where you store your files. So
that's just that was just for like this, for this hierarchy. This was just for this hierarchy.
That's just like Jeff, just like a naming convention.
Right.
You can choose a naming convention. Let's say you want to store a bunch of files, right? And you want to store those files and let me access the files. And you don't want it to be confusing when I look at it. So you can come up with a naming convention such that if I take the storage device and I'm looking at the files that you stored, it's gonna make sense to me. But let's say you have an empty storage device or a USB drive, for example, right? The reason why you're able to store data or store whatever thing you want to store in that USB drive is because the USB drive has a file system on it.
Right.
Without a file system, you will be unable to store anything.
Right.
Or even if you succeed in storing information, the information won't have format. You have no format. You won't know where data starts. You won't know where data ends. You'll just be a chunk of files with no format. So the file system actually helps you to give the data that you store in some kind of format that you can organize your data. You can store data easily. You can retrieve data easily, and you can actually come up with a naming convention and name the data such that it's going to make sense. But without a file system, all of that will not going to be, it's not going to be possible. And different file systems are going to work differently.
Right.
The way NTFS is going to help you organize and store data is going to be different from the way XFAT or FAST32
is going to be, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So like you see here, this
Got
is
it.
just
Thank
this is just simply what you're welcome. This is just simply what it means by fragmentation. Like right now, you see how this space is in use. That's what they call disk fragmentation. This disk has been fragmented, like this space is being used. So you can tell here the differences. The blue one says use space. The gray one says free space. That's just part of that's what the filing system on this drive is doing. Like if I want to know the filing system, like as I showed you guys earlier, I try to format this drive. It's going to tell me what filing system I want to format with right there. I can change the filing system to NTFS. If I want to store an NTFS document on that drive, I can format this drive and make it an NTFS filing system. But right now, by default, it's already a FAT32 filing system, which is commonly used in any most drives nowadays. They have them already. Like this one too. This hard drives that I have right here, it's definitely going to be a FAT32 as well. But I can always format it and change it to make it an NTFS filing system. Just by doing this right here. But I don't want to format this drive because I have, if I format it, I'm going to lose a lot of information.
Yeah, so the take home here is to know that every storage device has some kind of file system on it.
Right.
Without a file system, it will be impossible for you to store anything on
Even
any
the
device.
even the CD that we
Even
play.
if you succeed in storing, it's not going to make any sense.
So examples goes like for the CDs that we play music. You see the CDs that we.
Sorry, Mr. Kingsley. So what's the difference between all the filing system, the
That's what we're going through right
NTFS
now.
and the, okay.
Yeah, that's what we're going through right now. Like you see how it says here NTFS. It's a new technology file system. That's the full meaning of NTFS, and it gives you the properties of it. When we go to the next one, it's not going to have the same properties. They have different features. All of them have different features. Like you see here, it says it is recommended for that NTFS be used on all medias who uses a primarily with modern Windows. That means modern Windows means Windows operating system, like from Windows 10 or Windows Vista, as I said, you guys, Windows 7, from Windows Vista all the way to Windows 10, because that's what we have right now. Windows 10, even though they're about to come out with Windows 11, but we don't know that yet. But that's what the system that they use. Then for Macs also have like the new, the older version all the way to the newer version of Mac operating systems. You can use NTFS files on file fragmentation on those ones. When you talk about filing system, it pretty much talked about, like, if I want to explain to you guys, but too fast.
On this page, Mr. Kingsley, sorry, the slide before this one, the previous one. Yeah, it's saying that it should be fragmented every 1 to 2 months, defragmented. Yes. So
yeah, because it takes a lot of space
to do it, or the computer itself, the system itself does it?
It depends on whatever drive that is. If it's a hard drive, you probably sometimes want to defragment it. You want to defragment it, but if it's a CD, if you set it out to an NTFS file, it does it by its own. All you just got to do is format it, because it takes a lot of space. And you see here, it can take about like almost half of your drive. Like when we're looking at this this drive here that I showed you guys, let's see. Let me go to properties. Like you see this drive here. If this was an NTFS filing system here, it will go by the maximum space that I have on this drive. This drive is let's say 7 point, that's about a 16, yeah, that's about like a 16 gig or maybe 2 gig or something. No, yeah, about 16 gig USB stick. But if I was supposed to store an NTFS file on here, they says the note simply explains that it goes by the amount of space that you have, the fragmentation. Like right now, this fragmentation is completely is 16, about 16 or 8 gig. No, sorry, it's 8 gig. Sorry, I see now here. So it's about 8 gig USB stick. If I convert this to an NTFS file and I wanted to store an NTFS file on this drive, the NTFS filing format is going to take the whole space. It's not going to go like a FAT32. Like, see, FAT32 it goes by what you store. It keeps, that's how it keeps going. And that they're the one that do, like, they're just like a controller. That means they decide that I'm going to give this person a certain amount of space. I give this person a certain amount of space, a fragmentation of the drive as well. As you keep storing information, that's how it keeps going. But with NTFS, it just takes the whole thing and it ends there. You cannot store anything else again on it. Does that help?
Yeah, so how do you defragment it?
Just format it.
Just format it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you're not going to be formatting a lot of drive. There's so many, that's one way of me formatting this one. But when it comes to a drive that has a bunch of partitions, when you talk about partition, like a drive, like remember when we're doing installation, I said don't partition your drive a lot because we don't necessarily need it. Like if I wanted to partition this drive, since it's about 300 gig hard drive, I could partition it into 3 different drives, and you can always format a partition and leave the other ones. That's how deep fragmentation is. I'm going to show you when we go down to fragmentation. I'm going to show you how exactly it works. You can fragment just a partition of a disk. If that partition was, if you had partitioned that drive into a bunch of partitions, like let's say, okay, this is a drive in here that I had before, right? Then I partition it to 1, 2, 3, just from this one drive that has 300 gig space. I partition this one to be 100 gig. I partition this one to be 100 gig. I partition one to be 100 gig. That's 300 gig, right? Let's say we have just three space. I made this one. I format this drive. I made it NTFS, but it's not a drive. Actually, it's a partition on this main drive. This is just a partition from this main drive. It's not actually a drive on its own. That's what they call partitioning. That means I went into the disk like this like this, which is completely this one. I went into it. I cut a fragment of it and make it one of this. I cut a fragment of it and make it one of this. And that fragment that I cut out, I can format that fragment into NTFS. I can format this fragment into NTFS, and I can format this fragment into FAT32 or or EXFAT32. I can format those like that. And that's what they say every 1 to 2 months, you have to defragment it. You can go to this one that's NTFS. All you just got to do, since you format it to be NTFS, you can always defragment it by formatting it again and put it out to FAT32, or you can format it again and put it back to NTFS as well. Understood? That's just how it works. But as we go further into the note, you guys are you're gonna understand more. It's gonna make it more clear as you go further. So let's see what's next. So this one is FAT filing system, which FAT filing system simply stands for file allocation table. That's the meaning of that FAT. I'm not talking about like somebody losing some waste matter in the stomach. That's not the one we're talking about. It's just the way they call it FAT32. It's not like somebody letting out gas from the stomach. But this one is FAT32. It's called file allocation table, which filing system is a general purpose file system that is compatible with all major operating systems, Windows, Macs, and Linux and Unix. It is relatively simple technique underpinning and was the default filing system for all Windows operating system. You see how when we looked at that file system, it says there FAT32, then we put it in bracket, default. That's what it simply mean here. It's a default filing system for Windows operating systems. And it goes on and it says Windows operating systems and prior for Windows 2000s, because of its over simplific structure, FAT32 suffers from issues such as over fragmentations, as I said, file corruptions, and limit to file names and sizes. So when they say limit to file name and size, that means you cannot put a certain amount of, like if you're creating a file in a drive, let's say, let's go back to this our example again. Like if I go in here, you see how I name these files and it has a dash, it has a dot this with some with I think it's file it has a limitation. You cannot go a certain amount of characters or something like that. Like if I want to create a file, let's say a file or folder or something like that. If you want to name it, sometimes it has limitations to certain characters, certain the way you can name that file in there. So the file format, that means that's FAT32. It's just simply telling you that you cannot go a certain limit, certain characters, a certain amount of words that you put for the file name or extension. So it has a special characters that it does not use when you're naming a file. Some it doesn't allow you to name a file to be or something like a dot or something like that. This one is just a folder. Let's delete this. Okay, so if I want to do like let's say a file, let's go maybe a text document. Let's go text document. Yeah, something like that. So if I'm naming it, I put dot. It saves. They have special characters that when you use them, it's not going to allow you to save those documents with those special characters. That's simply what it's saying there for this one. And it says FAT filing systems. FAT filing system has the following properties. Those are the properties for FAT filing system. You saw how NTFS had its own properties. So it says files partition cannot extend beyond 2 terabytes. So that's the difference between a FAT filing system and NTFS. NTFS own says here the file extension can extend up to 16 EB. That's 16 million, about 16 million terabytes. But whereas FAT32 can only end up to 2 terabytes. It cannot go more than 2 terabytes. And it says Windows cannot format a disk larger than 32 gig for FAT32, but Macs can. That simply means that if you have a gig a drive that's a FAT32 drive, that's 32 gig, or it's like 40 gig, it will not format it. You try to format it, it will not go through. If it's a 32 gig, that's what they call it FAT32. I don't know, because it's the maximum level that it can extend. It can format a drive to. When I talk about drive, I mean an example like this. This is exactly what I'm talking about, like format a hard drive or system drive. Or maybe a CD that you want to burn on it is a read and write CD. You can format it and rewrite on it. If it's a thumb drive, as my USB stick that I had, you can format it and rewrite on it as well. I just messed up. Oh, let's see. Where were we? Okay. Play from current site. Skip. I'm just trying to make this thing larger. Can you guys see that all right? Or you want me to make it, I can extend it and enlarge it. Is that better?
Yeah, it's okay.
All right. Because I don't know what I pressed something else when I was trying to take out my thumb drive, and PowerPoint always act up crazy. And I don't want to ruin my note, even though I have a backup safe in my thumb drive. There's a backup for this note, and when I'm done, I'm gonna put this note on the system so everybody can see it. All right, I fixed it back. So I'm gonna put these notes up so everybody can grab a copy of it, have it for yourself. If you want to just go through them again, it's gonna be there for everybody. And it says here, file storage to a FAT partition cannot exceed 4 gigabytes. 2 terabyte is for the extension, extend beyond. It cannot extend beyond 2 terabyte. 4 gigabyte is just the file, the partition. Partition is different from extension. Just be clear. So it says the file partition needs to be defragmented often to maintain reasonable performance. Reasonable performance in the sense that what if that when I talk about like defragmented, when I talk about defragmented, it just simply means formatting. So Ms. Faye, don't get it confused with that terminology. When you talk about defragmentation, you can just do formatting. That's simply you're defragmenting a file system. So when you format with the FAT32, if you format a drive just because it's for performance reason, in the sense that that's what they say when you do disk cleanup. Disk cleanup, when they say, well, remember when we start first class, we talk about when your machine is slow. For you to troubleshoot the issues to troubleshoot a slow machine, what are some of the steps to troubleshoot a slow machine? Let me see if somebody can remember. If you have a system that's slow, what are some of the steps to take?
Can do task manager.
What do you do in task manager? So many things you can do in task manager. You
Yeah,
cannot just
you can end some of the programs running. Depends, some of the programs that you're not using, you can end some of them if
you
they
can
are
stop.
using.
Yeah, you can stop them from running the task.
Okay.
Okay, that's one step. You're right, Mr. Straight. Another person, any idea? Anyone?
Enzo, Jarvis.
You can clear your cache, like your temporary files.
Yep, that works too as well. That's correct.
You can defragment.
Right. Who was that?
That's Curtis.
Okay, Mr. Curtis. That was one of the things I was looking at. By you saying defragmenting, now what do you mean exactly? Because there's so many ways you can format a drive. That's defragmentation. You can do disk cleanup. That's the one I was looking for. Yeah. Disk cleanup. That's one of the stuff that helps you to increase your performance. And by you doing disk cleanup, you're doing defragmentation as well. So if you're doing disk cleanup on your system, you're doing defragmentation. So if I take you guys here again, if I go here, if I want to increase my performance on my system, I can go here. I do properties, I believe so. Yep, properties. I go disk cleanup. You see here. If I do disk cleanup on this system, on this drive that I have right now, if I do disk cleanup, it's gonna ask me which of the files that I wanna clean. Like, okay, let me pull it up. It just went to a different screen. So this is what I talk about. I mean by disk cleanup. So it's showing you what exactly you want to clean up from this drive. These are the stuff that you have in that drive. Temporary files, as Mr. Curtis, was it Mr. Curtis or Mr. Jonathan? You said about temporary files. So you can click, you can highlight temporary files. You can do thumbnails. You can do recycle bin. You can do download. That's what you're calling defragmentation. So you're trying to create more space by you cleaning your disks. And when you clean the disks, that means now that it's like almost half of it is being used. When you clean the disks, it's going to go back up a little bit more. You're going to see more gray, less than the blue, because the blue says that that's used space. That's the space that's been used. The gray one says that's space that's free. So when you do disk cleanup, you're doing disk defragmentation. Same goes on an NTFS drive as well. NTFS drive is the same thing. You can do disk cleanup on an NTFS drive. You're doing defragmentation. Or you can just format the whole thing as well. If you can format the whole thing, you just format the whole thing. But if you don't want to format the whole thing, because this one we're doing disk cleanup, because why? It carries an operating system. If I even try to format this drive, it will not allow me to. But there's so many ways that if you have credentials, you can go ahead and do it. This is the triangle I was showing you guys. Like right now, the reason why you have this triangle on this disk cleanup here, some people will not have them there, or somebody will have them. But if you click on yours, it's going to go through. But mine is not going to go through, because why? My company has set policies that only admins. It says only admins can make changes. That's why you have that shield. That's a shield. It's like the firewall shield. It's standing there like, okay, if you want to go through, you have to put in credentials. And by you putting credentials, simply telling you that it's capturing a file and saving in the log file. So if you clean these disks and mess things up, that's how they're going to trace you and track you that you were the last person that did some changes in this and you messed things up. And that can lead into your firing squad. You'll be like, okay, out the door, sir. That's why you got to be very, very, very careful when you're putting in credentials and doing anything. You got to make sure it goes by company policies, and the company has allowed you that applications can be installed or something can be installed on the machine. Because when anything you install on a company machine is going to ask for your credentials. And if it asks for credentials, you have to make sure the company policies allow that application to be installed on any machine, because you cannot just install any application on any user's machine by company policies. They have specific programs that they use that you have to install them. And you always want to clear that with your boss. Make sure, and just to get your hands off the bad side, you always want to narrow everything down to your boss. Always ask questions to your boss. So if tomorrow They'll be like, oh, why did you do this? I asked my boss, he said it was okay for me to do this. So now you're on the safe side. Now they have to go deal with your boss. Why did you allow him to install this thing while you know that the company policy says this cannot be installed on the machine? Now the problem is going to be with your boss, not even you. You have made yourself you've exempted yourself from that problem. So you always want to ask questions from your boss. It does not matter. It does not kill. Somebody had a question?
Yes, sir.
Go
So
ahead.
does when you partition a disk using the FAT, does the space, does the disk, or does it automatically grow, or why does it need to be defragmented?
It does not grow because it says here, right here, it says it cannot go beyond 2 terabyte. But with NTFS, what did NTFS said? NTFS says it can go up to 16 million terabyte. So you can have up to 16 million terabyte for NTFS. And for this one, you can have only up to 2 terabyte. And the reason why you have to defragment is for you to, it's right here. It says reasonable performance. It has to do about performance. So if a disk cannot go above 2 terabyte, when it start getting full, your system start getting slow. You start probably having slow, like you try to click on an application, it takes forever to open. So by you doing defragmentation, you're giving it more space. So now, because you might have temporary files in there that you don't necessarily need them. You need to let go of those files. You might have stuff in the recycle bin that is just sitting there. You need to clear a recycle bin. You need to clear cache. You need to stop application that you're not using. You stop the services from running. If you're not using some application, just to make your machine perform faster. Like everybody's hands are not equal that you can buy the most expensive machine with the most bigger space on them. So the little one that you have, these are the troubleshooting steps that you can use to make your system perform faster and more reliable. Understood, Mr. Bisberg?
You have opened another question.
Go ahead.
Is it the disk space full that causes a machine to be slow, or is it the RAM and processor?
No, there's a lot of things. RAM can cause it, disk space can cause it as well. So those are the troubleshooting steps. That's what we're telling you. When you're clearing cache, what does that simply imply? Let me ask you now this question too. Since you came up with your methodology. When you clear, when somebody says, okay, let's clear the cache, because I remember Mr. Jonathan says that's one of the troubleshooting steps to clear cache. What does that simply imply to you?
Yeah, that one will go and reduce some of the RAM, some of the things that were stored in the RAM.
Right. That's the answer that I wanted to hear. When you say clear cache, those are temporary files that are stored on your RAM, because RAM holds temporary files, as we said earlier. It holds temporary files, but when that machine is shut off and restarted, it clears it automatically. That's another way of clearing cache. But you can actually go into your system and clear cache. You can clear temporary files because there's a folder called temporary files folder, which stores any temporary information. It's just like the RAM. You can always go in there, you clear it out. I don't know if I can find, let me see if I can find mine here. I'll show you.
They call it /tem. Everybody knows.
Yeah, right there. It's right there. You see it, temp. If I go in there, I can see stuff. These are stuff that are in there that I have used and it's just there sitting there doing nothing. I can always clear those. But I don't want to clear them. You see how the one has a log file? It has all log agent, like it captures the stuff. So those are the temporary stuff. But if I restart this machine and we come back in here, you're not going to find them anymore. Because the RAM is holding them right now. The RAM is holding them right now in there, just sitting there. But if my machine was slower, for me to do, I can do a restart. That's why they say sometimes when something is messing up, you trying to fix something and it doesn't fix, just do a power off, power on. That's what I always tell people, like if you do something, your phone is freezing, you try to click something on your phone, it's not going, just shut it down, restart it. That can help as well. Sometimes it will not work as well because the problem escalated all the way to a different level. So that might help as well. So those are just examples of like stuff that you can do. And let's keep going because we have a lot to cover today though. And we have a file partition larger than 32 gig, as we said earlier for that one. And then it says note, this section refers to the FAT32 file system. Some earlier versions of Windows 90, like Windows 95, uses the FAT16. There's not just FAT32, there's FAT16 and there's also FAT12. Those ones we're not going to go into them because they are backdated versions of the FAT32. The FAT32 is the one that we currently use now with the newer versions of machines. So just note that in mind. If they ask you about FAT filing system, which one do you know? You know FAT12, you know FAT16, and you know FAT32. FAT12 and FAT16, because I get the pleasure to meet a FAT16 system, because that was like the Windows 98 system when they was using Windows 98 and Windows NTs, those backdated systems that they used to use the fat cathode tube TVs, not the modern screens that we have right now. The one that you had the whole box sitting on a system, and the graphics were like crazy, outdated. So those are the systems that in Windows 98 that they used to use those kind of filing systems. So let me see, next slide. So this is FAT FAT filing systems. So it says it starts with extended file allocation table. It's a Microsoft file system that is compatible with Windows and Mac OS 10.6 and plus. So Mac OS 10.6, that's just the versions of Mac. It's just like we have Windows, Windows Vista, Windows 7, in the 8. So Mac OS, they have their own versions too. That's their own naming convention. That's how they decide to name their own conventions. 10 point this, 10 point, 11 point this, 12 point this, or maybe 12 point. That's 10 point, just like that. So it's also compatible with many medias, such as TVs, portable medias. Portable media simply means your MP3 players that we used to have back in the days, the MP3 players, your iPods. What else can I do? Like a portable media, cell phone. What else? I think USB sticks that can count as a portable media as well. Portable hard drives, like any device that's like carryable or like carry on, like you can pocket it. That's just the meaning of a portable device. Anything that's small, based on electronic. So, and it also says the EX file has the following properties as well. So you see how it says extended file system partition can extend up to extremely large disk size. So 512 TIB is recommended maximum. That TIB we're still gonna go. I don't know what the I is for, but I think that might have just been a mistake or something. But I'll correct that. So it says file up to if files up to 16 EIB. So I don't think that's a mistake, but I'll look into that. I'll give you guys the abbreviation. I think it should be somewhere down. I think I put the abbreviation somewhere down in the notes. You see what it means by that EIB. So it can be stored on a FAT on an EX FAT partition. So 16 EIB can be stored on a FAT. I don't know exactly. That means the partition that it can go up to 16 million of terabytes, as I said earlier for NTFS2 as well. So it says EX partition is not compatible with Linux and Unix, but it's compatible with some Mac machines. Not all, because Linux is a whole different system on its own. Mac OS is different from Linux and Unix. So EX FAT partitions should be defragmented often too as well. So all these partitions and these fragmentations, these partitions have to be defragmented, just because you need performance-wise. As I explained earlier for FAT32, it's for performance-wise that you need some of these things.
Excuse me.
Yes.
I don't know if you mind, but can you just, if you can show us a practical situation where you actually use these file systems?
A practical situation. I just showed you guys with my the USB stick.
Yes, I've seen that one, but maybe in the working environment, how you make use of these file systems is always just
like file system at your work environment.
Yes,
the thing is that I don't want to connect my thing again because it might cause my sharing to freeze or something. But example is just like this. Filing system is mostly it's mostly used for like drive.
At work, you mostly have NTFS, right? But it's just good for you to know the other file systems if you are doing stuff at home or personal stuff on your computer. But in every organization right now, they won't be using FAT32 or the other older file systems.
Yeah, FAT16, all those ones.
Yeah, every environment right now will be using NTFS.
And quick question.
That is for the Windows. Take note, because when we come to Linux,
it's a different
we'll also be talking about file systems in Linux and Unix. And a file system that's used on Windows will not be used on Windows, will not be used on Linux. So Linux got its own file systems, right?
Yep.
And Windows got its own file system. So if we start talking about Linux and I ask you like what file systems do we use, don't tell me NTFS, FAT32. Those those are Windows file systems. The one that we'll cover when we start Linux are gonna be different.
Can anyone just a quick question to see if anyone is following me? It just came to my mind. Can you give me a reason why companies or big enterprises, corporations will use NTFS? Look at it. No, the answer is right there, but you gotta look. You gotta read between the lines. You want a clue? Anyone want a clue?
I think one of the main reasons why is because NTFS is compatible with other operating systems, such that if, for instance, somebody is in the company is versed with Linux, you can equally use NTFS, even though STSS supports that. And besides,
Go ahead. Go ahead. Oh, you're on mute.
that's also.
Oh, okay. That's one of the reasons too. But actually, the one that I was looking for is the.
I think
Something to
because
do with the
it
size.
has a larger space.
Right. That's the one I was looking at. And the answer is right there. The first properties. It says NTFS can extend up to 16 million terabyte. So companies would definitely love to use NTFS filing system because why? It's very easy. They don't want to have to deal with like, oh, can you go to the server room today and try to see if you can defragment some of this drive because we're running out of space on these drives. Can you go to the server room today, maybe in next 2 months or 2 weeks to swap drives because that one is full. We have to put a different one in. No, they don't want to deal with that. They don't want to deal with all that back and forth. So that's why it's good that you use NTFS for corporations. But if you have like a small corporate, like just your house, just setting up a small local network in your house, you can use your FAT32, you can use FAT-EXT because you don't process a lot of data. But when it comes to a working environment, you will never see a FAT32 or EXFAT because they need something that can consistently work, and then they don't have to bother. Excuse me. They don't have to bother keep going there and try to like defragment, create more space. Because another thing too is that in a server room, when drives start getting full in a server room, you will see users in the company that start complaining like, oh, why is the drive too slow today? I was trying to access this drive earlier today to do my work. It cannot go through. I'm trying to access this Excel file from this drive. This drive partition is not going through. Those are some of the error messages that you're going to get, and you're going to see tickets keep coming in like that for no reason. So companies don't want to deal with other ticketing. They want to deal with more important things than worrying about why the drive is getting full because they already have drives. And some things that happen in server rooms that drives are being cloned as well. If this drive is full, the server has, each drive has a clone of a drive somewhere that if it's full, it automatically goes to the next drive. And they're all NTFS filing systems because they can go as much as big as whatever size. The company has money to buy the drives. But you cannot have a small local area network in your house and then you want to go buy an NTFS file drive and use it. You're going to spend a lot of money. So that's just some of the reasons. And then we have the other one that says HFS5 plus filing system. That's just a hierarchy. I can't even pronounce that word. Can someone pronounce that word for me, please?
High Sierra.
Yes. It's right there. It's the full abbreviation. But anyways, you guys can pronounce it whatever way. I'm just gonna skip that part and go because my pronunciation is not really that good. Don't mind me.
It's hierarchical, sir.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Bismarck. So it says the file system that developed by Apple. So that's a Mac filing system. When you start talking about like Mac OS systems, if they ask about filing system for Mac OS, you want to give this one, the HFS. There's also I think I mentioned a couple of them down. The other one, what's it called? No, I think that one's for Linux. Yeah, I'm just confusing with one on Linux. But this is being managed by Apple for Mac OS X. It's also referred to as a Mac OS X extended. So it's pretty straightforward right there. It's for the properties includes its maximum volume is 8 EB, which is equivalent to 8 million terabyte. So you see, NTFS is the bigger one. Even the HFS does not even do anything. NTFS is 16 million terabyte. Why? Followed by HFS, sorry, which is the second with 8 million terabyte. But the rest are like all down into like the 2 terabyte, and which they don't even use them anymore. I mean, just for like small devices and portable devices, they can use those ones.
Okay,
And,
I have a question.
Yeah.
The question is going to the class, not any particular person. So suppose I store a file. I'm working on some document and I store it in a hierarchical file system, HFS, right? And I put it on a thumb drive. Can I take that thumb drive and open it up on a Windows machine that has an NTFS file system on it?
No.
Explain your answer. If you're saying yes, explain. If you're saying no, explain.
What was your question again, please?
So he asked that.
So what were you saying no for?
I realized
You just want to come clear again. So the question was simply this. Okay, let's say for instance, right? This is the question. Let me go by this. The question that Mr. Jerry asked was this. I have this thumb drive in my hand right now, right? And I have an application on my computer right here that I was working on. And I'm using a Mac OS system. I'm using a Mac machine to work on. And I saved that file using this file system right here, HFS. Then I copy that file that I saved with HFS and put it into this portable drive and then go into a Windows machine. Would that file open? That has the Windows machine has you say it was 532, right?
NTFS.
Oh, NTFS.
I think no, because they are not compatible. Because I think the HFS file is for Mac operating system.
I think it will, because that is the whole sense of the OSI model. So, for instance, we know the file system is the way it's a system that stores and retrieves data. So I'm sure that the application developers, whoever, they will put into consideration like all these things before like they develop these file systems. If there is no way
the answer is very, very simple. And if somebody else should try first before then I can give you guys the answer. It's very, very simple.
Anyone else can try? Faith, what do you think?
I'll go with Mr. Roland. I'll say no because they're not compatible.
The answer is actually yes.
Okay. Look at the screen. Look at the screen right now. Look at the last bit, one thing on the screen. That's the answer to the question.
And if I go back here to NTFS right here, the answer to is here. It says here, it says NTFS is compatible with also Windows and Mac OS too. If you understand what that means you can use you can take a drive from Windows system that is compatible. That means NTFS is both compatible Windows system and Mac system. So if I store a file that's from a Mac machine on this thumb drive and I go to a Windows system that has NTFS on it, it's definitely going to work. Because why? Because NTFS is compatible with
what I understand, it means a Windows.
Is my explanation right?
Yeah, explanation was typically on the other side. I believe so. Yes, it was on the other side, but you were not wrong from what you were saying. But it was it was just off track a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, but the simple answer here they ask you just says yes. Yes, in the sense that what? HFS is a Mac operating system, file system, sorry. NTFS, it works with Windows and it works with also Mac. It's compatible. That's why he specified that if you're going on a machine that has NTFS, and first things first that you have to understand about NTFS is that it's compatible with Macs and it's compatible with Windows. And you're taking a file that is saved with HFS from a Mac machine. What does that simply tell you? That you're going onto an NTFS machine that is compatible with Mac machine. It's definitely going to work. And it says it down here. It says drivers are available that allows Linux users to read and write to HFS volumes. It says Windows user can read HFS plus, but not write. So you can read the file, but you cannot edit the file because why? that file was created on a Mac machine, not on a Windows machine. And you're bringing it to a Windows machine. It's never, you can only view the file, see what is in there, like go through if you want to take a screenshot of it, you can do, but you cannot edit the file. That's what I mean by you cannot write the file. You cannot make changes to that file. It's not because it's a permission that has been set or there's no permission that has been set. It's just the filing system. It's two totally different. That's just the way the filing system works. Does that clarify, you guys? All right. It says the extended file systems. These are extensions that I just gave. So the EX file, this is just the EX file, which is also EX file is also a Mac filing system too as well. If you see here, EX file system is also a Mac filing system. It says the extended file system, which stands for extended file systems, was created to be used with Linux kernel. That's more of a Linux machine. So they ask you now, if you go to Linux class, they'll be like, oh, what are some of the file systems that you know about, for Linux? You simply say ext.ext. So those are one of the file systems for Linux. But don't get confused from a Linux and a Mac OS.
Yeah, when we come to Linux, we'll handle the ext file systems, ext version 1, version 2, ext3, ext4,
right there.
GFS. There's another HFS for Linux. And it's not like
there's
hierarchical.
XFS.
It's High Sierra. That's
Yep.
the meaning of the HFS when it comes to Linux. High Sierra, and then there is BTRFS. So there are a lot of interesting file systems on Linux, and we'll also be doing UFS, which is compatible with Linux systems.
I just did it like this. This is just an introduction to you guys to see like what you're gonna see in Linux. So I just give you guys some of the filing system to differentiate the filing system from Linux and also the Windows ones. So the EXT, you guys are gonna go more detail into it when you guys get to Linux, and it just gives you a brief description of how it works. So it says extension can support up to a volume of 1 EIB, which is equals to, I could say, maybe as the other one converted to, it says here about 8 million terabytes. So that one will definitely be about 1 million terabyte. Let's say that just does the conversion. So it says 16 terabyte maximum for file size. So it's more than FAT32 because FAT32 was what was it again? Was it 2 terabyte? Was it 2 terabyte? Yeah. Then it just says it's Red Hat recommended using XFS, which you guys are gonna get into it. Volume. These are just examples of stuff that you're gonna see in the Linux side of it. But if we go down here, so this is how they made that conversion to come that 1 million, whatever they call it. So this is the EX byte. That's the meaning of that EIB. I was telling you guys, remember when I was telling you guys EX byte?
XB byte.
Yes. XB. So they just abbreviated into EIB. They have the PB bytes as well. Then they have the EB. So my notes were not wrong that I had the I in it. So now you see where because I remember somewhere I put it down here. So this is how you do the convention of like it's equal to. So 1 XB byte is equals to 1.1 number of bytes. And you know bytes is smaller than terabyte or gigabyte.
Yeah, I think we covered that in the
networking.
Beginning of the class. What is a kilobyte? What is a byte? What is a megabyte? What is a terabyte? What is a petabyte? What is a, I think we all know that part, right? And so don't worry too much about knowing the exact numbers here. The thing to know here is, okay, what is a byte? How many bytes make a kilobyte?
Right.
How many kilobytes make a megabyte? How many megabytes make a terabyte? Things like that. How many terabytes make a petabyte, and so forth. And so that is the order you should know. So if we're talking about megs,
it's bigger than kilo.
Are smaller than megabytes. Things like that. That's your understanding you should have. Not the exact numbers here. Like, okay,
you don't need all this bunch of numbers.
1 XB byte equals to 1 point. Just know the smallest unit, which starts from a byte.
Yeah.
From a bit, it starts from bits, and then from bits you go to byte. From byte, kilobyte, megabytes, megabyte, terabyte, petabytes, and it keeps going
so
on.
So on and so forth. But this one is just yes.
Please, I wish to ask a question that is a little bit, I don't know. I want that I should really be able to form a picture of this concept of bit, B-I-T, in my brain, so that, like, I don't know, when they say bit, that I mean bit, like they say computer store in bit. I mean the picture.
Okay, the way to look at bit is the smallest unit of measurement.
Bit. When you talk about bit, it means something is small.
It's the smallest unit of storage.
Yes.
When it comes to computers, right? So if you are narrowing down and you're trying to store a file in a storage device, the smallest unit of storage will start with a bit. And 8 bits will make a byte. So if 8 bits make a byte, then you can now do the math to say then what is 1 bit. If you do the math, then you know what 1 bit will come up to. But bit is the smallest. It's the smallest storage unit. And from bits, 8 bits together will make a byte. And then I think 1,000 bytes will make a kilobyte. And 1,000 kilobyte will make 1 megabyte. 1,000 megs will make, it just keeps going up. Will make 1 terabyte. 1,000 terabytes will make 1 petabyte, and it keeps going up.
All right, so that was just a
answers your question. Are you all good with that?
Yes, thank you.
Nice. So let's take a break. It's
yeah,
I think
11:30, 11:33 right now, or 34 actually.
So we'll come back in 12 minutes and continue.
All right, I'll stop sharing here. Let's do our timer here on this one.
Pause recording.
Yeah.
Will I type the equivalent Russian or how?
No, it automatically converts. That's why they say is if you're using the same file NTFS filing system on this same machine, it doesn't matter if the Russian keyboard or whatever. You're using Russian keyboard over there, but when you come with the file over here on a English keyboard, the file name is still going to be in Russian, but only you can change that too as well. The file name is still going to be in Russian.
Okay. In a nutshell, language is not going to change the file system.
Right.
So you can store it in Chinese, Japanese, whatever language you want, Igbo, Hausa, whatever language. The file system will still be the same, right? So language is not a determining factor of whether the file system is going to change or not. The file system is standard.
This is minimum support volume size for NTFS is 10 megabyte with a maximum of 2 terabyte with no limit of file size. So you have no limit.
You have not explained the meaning of encryption.
Encryption is just like you doing like I explained it to you. Encryption is a security way of sending a file, to share a file with somebody. If you want to share a file with somebody that you don't want anybody else, that means, let's say, for instance, right, multiple people has access to that drive, but you want to share a file with somebody that you want only one person to see that file. You don't want the other people that have access to that drive to be able to access that file. That's why you encrypt the file. Encrypt just means you're putting a lock on the file that only the other person that you allow can access that file. And they have to decrypt the file too as well from their own end. That's a whole another security level factor that if we're doing security, if you're doing cyber security, you meet stuff like encryptions. They have a whole lot going. But encryption is just like, it's just a form of security. You can encrypt anything. You can encrypt data. You can encrypt pictures into put it into encrypted file. You can encrypt text. You can encrypt names. Let's say you want to send a names in a bunch of files and send it to somebody. You don't want it to go everywhere. People's informations. Let's say a banks they use a lot of encryption because why? They have to do with people's personal informations and stuff. So they do use a lot of encryption. Anything that is sharing over their banks. Like let's say, okay, we have a branch bank from here in Massachusetts. There's one in Texas. There's one in Dallas. If I want to send users information from here to the branch bank in Sweden or somewhere else in the world, you have to encrypt that message, because every day we have hackers out here that they're just sitting on the web. They put their Trojan, they call them Trojan horses. They put a Trojan out there, just sitting and waiting. Anything they see that they can pick it out, they steal it. That's somebody's full-time job. Hackers just sit out there, just waiting for, they just launch a Trojan and leave it out there. It's just running. And they're waiting to see anything that passes freely. If you miss your tunnel, they pick it up. That's why I see a lot of people use encryption to transfer data, because they don't want that data to lose lost out there. That's why I say companies use NCFS, because NCFS first of all has its own encryption. Then now they do encryption again with companies will definitely have another form of software that it encrypts data as well. So that's double encryption. You put a double encryption there. If a hacker succeeds to crack one, if that succeeds to crack one, they might have trouble cracking the other one.
So
Can firewall not solve all this problem of people wanting people's data?
No. You have to understand something, Bismarck. What a firewall does is different from
what encryption does.
What encryption does, right? You can still hack into my network, or you hack into any network, and you steal data. You have the data,
but if
the data is encrypted,
you cannot access it.
It's useless to you, because to break the encryption, it's like it's going to take you forever.
It's a bunch of codes.
it depends on the kind of algorithm that is used to encrypt the data, right? Just to decrypt one line of encryption. Like I can send a message to you. I say, Bismarck, how are you doing? And it's encrypted. It can be encrypted, given like 1 billion letters mixed
just
up with
bunch of weird stuff. Yes.
Just that one line can take you maybe 1 year
to decrypt it.
To decrypt it. If you are super smart, you have all the algorithm tools on earth. So that's why hackers are more interested in unencrypted data, because to crack encryption is just crazy. Like
it's wasting their time.
So they don't mind. So when they are transmitting information, right, they'll use a secure medium to transmit the information. But again, they'll encrypt the data. Suppose a hacker, there's something called eavesdropping. Eavesdropping is like trying to listen to your conversation end to end. Hackers do that a lot. They eavesdrop on network packages. There's something called packet sniffing. While network packets are going over the network, they sniff packets and try to steal packets. You can steal the network packets, no problem. But if they're encrypted, you are wasting your time.
Yep.
So a firewall is simply there to block unauthorized access based on a set of rules that you set on the firewall.
You implement, yes.
Yes. And most of the time, networks that are hacked most hacks will come from within. Someone made a mistake with configuration from within and gave access, to someone, to an outside person, So that's why within work, after I do my configuration to secure the network, it goes through like 2 or 3 different checks in my team. Another team will check, because human error occurs all the time, right? I can open up a hole somewhere without knowing, and the next person, the team will catch it. So a firewall doesn't encrypt. A firewall is just there. It's like a wall that stops
unauthorized
entry into the network based on rules that you define. If you don't configure the firewall will just be there being useless.
Yep.
Not in use.
When you
configure it and set the rules and tell the firewall, this is how I expect you to act, it's gonna act exactly the way you want it to act. And be careful when you're doing firewalls, because there are sometimes you can misconfigure it and even block yourself.
Right.
Block yourself out, So
that's what I was about to say. Like, you gotta be careful when you're playing in there, because you don't want to play something and then you log access from yourself as well. You sit there forever, you won't be even able to figure out what's going on. And that's it. You have to go
why are hackers still very successful despite all this security?
Yes, because hackers are patient, right?
It's not even patient. Like, that's the job. That's a full-time job for them. They sit every day, they try to create news.
Okay, the thing to know about hacking is not all hackers are malicious. There are white-collar hackers and there are blue-collar hackers, right? There are people that do pen testing, you know, they're testing intrusion detection and all that. They perform that on the network just to detect vulnerabilities. So there is one course in cybersecurity known as vulnerability management, pen testing and all that. So they are testing vulnerabilities on a network. Those are all hackers. You hire those people to help protect your network. But for them to be able to fully give you the protection that you desire, they should be able to test and hack that network. You know, because there is nothing like 100% security when it comes to cyber, in the cyber world. Nothing is perfectly secure. No matter what you do, nothing is perfectly secure.
Because as the hackers, if they put their Trojan horse today, it works today. Then tomorrow they're going to develop a skill set of closing that Trojan. When they close that Trojan, the person is going to sit again another day, try to create another Trojan different from what he did before. So that's the job. That every day they do is like try to create new concepts of try to hack. Because as they're doing it, they're blocking it. They're doing it, they're blocking it. They're doing it, they're blocking it. They just keep going.
Yeah, that's just how it is in the cyber world.
That's why
like
they're successful.
Most vulnerabilities will come from within. Someone in the company will make an error.
Right.
That's how the doors get open.
And then when they talk about error,
cyber criminals won't go and crack into your security. No, they are checking for vulnerabilities. You leave a window open, that's where they come in. It's
and
not like
another way too that they can
you close the door and they come and shatter the door. They don't do that. It's impossible. Someone within will make an error.
And another way that they can do it too is by emails. They can send you a junk email that you just, as you open it, boom.
There is social engineering. Remember we talked about hardware, right? When we're talking about viruses.
Yes.
We spoke about viruses, we spoke about spyware, we spoke about hardware. Hardware, they'll send you an advert and say, click here, you've won $100,000, click here. The moment you are clicking on that link, you're installing a Trojan.
Right.
Without even knowing. So be careful when you come across those messages online, click here, congratulations, claim your prize, things like that. We have this discount, click here. The moment you click on those links, you're installing a Trojan, that's it.
They're using other ad like a front face to put that Trojan behind it. So that's what they don't sleep at night. They build a Trojan and put it behind like an ad face. Then they send it to you via email. You see it. Some people, you know, some of these old folks at the company, they'll think that, oh yeah, I've been playing this game. I think that probably I won. As I click on it, boom. It's inside in the back end. You don't see.
There's also social engineering that someone can write an email to say Jeff J and claim to be Gerald. And because Jeff J knows Gerald's email is geraldk@gmail.com, they can do geraldc@gmail.com and act like me. And you feel like, oh, it's coming from Gerald, and you start giving private information.
You don't even know.
That's it. You're done. You know, so hackers have various ways that they try to steal information, try to hack. It's not just one way. But the thing to know, Jarvis, is that the mistake is always made from within. A hacker is not going to come shatter the door of your network and break into it. It's very hard. Someone will make a mistake somewhere, and then they'll exploit it.
So I remember a lot of people had a question about the disk fragmentation, how to fragment a disk or how to whatever. So this is a simple concept of a disk fragmentation right here. So if you look here, like this is a disk right here, a disk right here. It can be a CD. It can be a hard drive. It can be a USB stick or whatever. This is the whole USB stick or the whole CD right here. And all these colors that you see right here, those are fragments. Like this line that cuts here, that's a fragment right there. This is a fragment right here. This is a fragment right here. This is a fragment. This is a fragment all the way through round. You can easily defragment just this space if you know exactly what is on there. You can defragment it by you going in there, the disk cleanup where you remember how we said the disk cleanup. You can do disk cleanup. It's going to show you for Windows. It's going to tell you what exactly you want to delete. Like if I want to do the disk cleanup here, which is this one, I can go here, properties, the disk cleanup. So we can say, where did it go? 1 second, let me just minimize this. Okay, it's right here. So we can say, okay, this is a disk right here. And let me minimize this so you can see. Let's consider this to be, this is this disk right here. This one right here. This is, let's say this part, this position can be just the 10 files. This position like this can be just 10 files. This one can be maybe downloads. This one can be maybe a Windows error. This one can be probably the log files. This one can be something else. So all these fragments, they're like little pieces in the computer. You can easily go here when you're doing a disk cleanup. That's you doing disk defragmentation. That means you're trying to clear this space so it can be like the white space here. These white spaces are all empty. They're not taken yet. The ones in color, we can say, okay, all these ones in red can probably be 10 files that are stored in different folders. You can go here. You can select which one you want to do. Maybe the blue one can be a recycle bin. You can clear all those, and once you clear them, you clean them out from here. This blue space that was recycle bin is gonna become white. That means it's not taken anymore. It's been empty. That's defragmentation, a simple concept of defragmentation. And if you want to do the whole disk, let's say this was a disk that you partition, maybe it was a full partition like this. If it was a full partition, like, let's say this was partitioned into this tree, right? This is 300 gig hard drive that I have. I partition this 300 gig into each one to be 100 gig. Let's consider these are the 3 partitions. Even though those are my share folders, don't look at it as a share folder, look at it as a partition drive. Let's say this is 100 gig, this is 100 gig. On this 100 gig drive, you have this right here. Let's say this is a 100 gig hard drive that you were using as your backup hard drive, that you don't need all the stuff anymore on it. You can just simply go and format it, format everything out of that disk. That's also defragmentation. You are defragmenting that disk now to give it to acquire more space so you can use it for other purposes. That's what you're doing. So this is now, this actually here is fragmented. It's been fragmented into sections. So this is all fragments, all these colors that you see in each of these squares, the triangle shapes. All of those are partitions and they are fragments.
Okay, sir. Please, I want to tell an employer that during my last employment, I was encountering problems of defragmenting this. Please, in an interview, just tell me what I will say.
You were encountering problems to defragment. No, they will not even ask you, like they'll ask.
I fragmented disks. I am good at disk defragmentation. I mean, like.
Yeah, to say simply that when you're doing disk fragment, if you're fragmenting a disk, right? That's a whole different concept, because I've never fragmented one before, but it's something which is good to know, to fragment a disk. Fragment disk, you can partition a disk. Like partition is fragmenting. If you're partitioning a disk, like you remember when we're building our ISO image, and we went to that place, the position where it asked you to give them where we do custom. Instead of you doing upgrade, we did custom. When you went to that custom, that's where you can fragment a disk right there. That's simply where you can fragment a disk. You can go in that custom settings, you click new. Instead of you just clicking OK as default, you can change that space size. I'll pull up let me stop sharing on this meeting for a second. I'll show you on the machine. So you see, because I know sometimes when we talk just words, it's hard to understand. It's always good to sometimes talk with them explanations and physical, like. All right, let me open this virtual machine right here. I'm just going to do one quick machine so you guys can see exactly what I'm talking about. WinEx. I'll just do WinEx. It's still the same thing. I do next. Just carry my. That's fine. Create. Next. Dynamic. Okay. 32. That's fine. Just doing for example. Okay. Which one is it? WinEx. Settings. Empty. Yeah, which one should we choose? I'll choose the Windows 12 network. Okay, that's all done. Let's play the machine. Can you guys see my share screen? Can you guys see my share screen?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just making sure because I don't want anybody to miss what I'm doing. So that's fine. So when this machine loads up, I'm going to show you exactly what I was saying. It's going to come up with the installation window. So what we're trying to do now is this fragmentation. You can always do this way when at the beginning when you're installing a machine, or you can do it during the process of like maybe you can go into the drive itself and fragment the drive. You can always right click on the drive and do partitioning. I'm just gonna do no. Oh, I'm clicking the wrong. Where did my mouse go?
So your mouse is captured.
Yeah.
Your mouse is captured, sir.
It's uncaptured.
It has been captured, so you press that button.
How do you uncapture it, Mr.?
Control and the right arrow. So you release.
It says control right arrow.
Yes.
Yeah, done it is not going.
Right arrow alone, like 3 seconds.
Let's just do this. A quick way of doing it.
Click the option 2 now.
It's option 2. Come on. Okay. Okay, we do next, install.
So while this is installing, let me just ask a quick question. So is everyone comfortable with setting up a Windows server and doing a remote connection to that server from another machine? Is everyone okay with doing that? If you are not, let me know right now so I can help you.
So he said doing a remote connection. I don't understand that one.
RDP.
Setting up your at work, you're not going to be working on a server like this. You're not going to be clicking. You're not going to be signing in at the server.
Yeah.
Always,
Use a remote tool.
99, let me say 100% of the time, you will be doing remote connections. You'll never sit in front of a server and log into the server directly. It will never happen. That's what you should know. Even though we are setting up servers in VirtualBox and starting the servers and working on the servers directly, at work, it will never happen. You might be in an environment where you will never ever see the server room. You never know where the server room is. You never go near the server room.
I've been in mine just once.
Just forget about actually going to the server console and logging in. All the time you'll be logging in remotely. It's gonna be a remote connection. So that's what I'm asking. Is everyone comfortable setting up their servers and doing a remote connection to connect to that server?
No, sir.
No, how is the remote connection working? I'm not, I don't know.
Who else got that problem? Because we want to solve it right now.
Yep.
All of us.
I've not tried.
Really?
You never RDP to into your machine?
Because Kingsley's been talking about RDP all the time, putting your IP or your host name and connecting. All the time he's been working on Windows servers, he's been doing RDP. And I remember, I think 2 classes ago, last weekend, he did say if you do an RDP connection, for you, always ensure that we spoke about 2 things to happen for the RDP connection to work. Who remembers? There are 2 things that you need to enable to make sure RDP works.
Is this
Who remembers?
The bridge? NAT?
No. So Jeff, we've already set up the Windows server, right? The server is set up. We want to do a remote connection. Let's say the server is in Boston. I'm right here in Houston. I want to connect from my machine to that server. that is in Boston. What are the things that I need to enable to be able to connect remotely or to be able to make that connection work?
We'll enable remote desktop protocol from our machine.
Exactly.
But the problem now is how are we going to do it, sir? I'm doing it's not working.
Just go to
You
your
did it
setting.
and it didn't work.
Go to settings.
Mark,
Go to search in your computer.
We want to see it all again.
Because my research shows that for me to do remote desktop protocol into the server, I need to have Windows 10 Pro installed. So I do not have Windows Pro.
No, you don't need to have Windows desktop. You don't need to have
Pro,
Windows 10 Pro installed. You've installed Windows Server 2012 on your machine. You have the machine right there in front of you, right? You want to do an RDP connection to that machine. You don't require Windows 10 Pro. You don't. Kingsley did show us in class. He said you have to enable RDP on your machine and also on the server. And then I told you, you also have to enable the firewall. We went to the firewall and make sure that
RDP was enabled.
is allowed through the firewall. Do you guys remember? Guys, after every class, please watch some of these videos. If you don't watch them, you miss a lot of things because there are things that you understand in class 1 or 2 days later, you will forget, especially if you are not taking notes. So it's important that you spend time watch some of these videos because there are tiny things here and there that you will miss.
So this is exactly what I was talking about. Like here, when you come here, this is where you can partition. When you want to partition, you come to custom install. Like you see here, it's just one partition, right? You remember when we did new and we just did apply. But now if I want to partition this 50 gig, I say, okay, 50 gig is equals to 51 something megabyte. I can divide it by 2. I can divide it into 3. Let me say I'll do, let's say that's 51,200, right? I'll do maybe 1,400. 14,000. Let me do 1,400, right? I do 14,000. Okay. I do apply. It's going to tell me that it's going to partition. You see, now there are 3 partitions. 2 here. This one is unknown. I can repartition this one again one more time. I give you more space, just like that. That's how you partition the disks. And you can come here, you can delete partition. You can come in here, I can delete one of the partitions. I can come in here again. I can do more partition. I can do new. It's 36. I divide it by 2. Let's say 37 divided by 2, probably like once. Let's do 12,000. Okay. I do apply. You see, it's like this now. So you have different partitions. Now I have many partitions. I have 2 primary. You see, I have 2 primary right now instead of 1. I can decide to install my operating system just on this one, or I can decide to install my operating system on this one, then use this one for something else. If I finish with this machine, I'm going to have 3 drives like that sitting on there, just as I showed you in the other my other video. I showed you guys the shared drive. It's going to be now shared partitions. These are all partitions on one hard disk. It's not 2 different. I don't have no 2 hard drive on my machine. No, I have just one, but I fragment it into different fragments that I can use those different fragments for different purposes. That's what I was telling. I remember I told Mr. Ola one time in class that he was saying that he wanted to get him a disk I told him he wanted to partition it because the machine was slow. Like, oh no, he said he wanted to use it for storage, like to store. How can you store this on a different hard drive? I said either you can buy external drive or you can partition your drive and use one side to store information into it. You store information, but you always have to defragment that drive because why? The more you're putting more stuff on it, since it's one hard drive, the more you're putting more stuff on it, it's going to start making your machine to run slow. And when your machine starts running slow, that's when you start going to disk cleaning, troubleshooting how to repair your machine slow, which we already talked about it. So for right now, I'm not going to create.
Please, I just want you to give the theory. Don't do practical. Just suppose that I want one of the primary partitions in that disk that you have fragmented to have a different file system, and the other primary partition to have a different file system. Will it be possible?
I think that should be possible. Format right here.
No, just leave it. I will do that after. Don't do.
Yes.
You take more time.
Yeah. You can always go in there. You can make changes. Where you do the format, it's going to ask you what format you want to use it for. You want to format for format with.
Yeah. Kingsley, can we carry on? I know we still got a lot to, and we're running out of time.
That's why I want to close this one right now so we can go on from here.
So guys, let's go back to where we were. We're talking about doing a remote connection where you build up your servers. So at work, you will be doing remote connections all the time. You're never gonna log directly into a server. Like you click on your machine right now, your machine starts, you remember at work, servers are always on. You don't shut down a server. So it's not like you're gonna come power on your machine and then you sign in. No, servers are in the server room and the servers are always up and running. All day, every day, all the time. Servers never go down, right? So at work, you're gonna be on your work machine. Like, here's my work machine right here. Here's my work machine. So I use this machine and I do a remote connection and I connect to one of our servers. So what we are doing here, we've built the servers. So we have to know how to use the RODP protocol to connect to the servers that we have built. So pretend for a moment that all the servers that you've set up are sitting on some data center somewhere. Let's say for a moment, you just pretend that your Windows server is here in Houston and you want to connect to that server. So that's what we're going to try to do. You use your RODP protocol. So RODP is remote desktop protocol. That protocol has a port. Who can tell me the port for that protocol? Jarvis.
I think 25, sir.
No, that's wrong. Quick, we don't want to waste time. RODP port number.
3389.
3389, that's correct. So when you're using RODP to do that remote connection to your Windows server, you're using port 3389 by default. You don't even have to specify that port when doing that connection. So on your machine, you should have remote desktop protocol. The remote desktop client should be installed on your machine by default.
Senior Gerard, one quick question, please.
Yes.
So you said by default, they should have a certain port. Can a company also create like a custom port? Or
yes, companies create custom ports all the time. Like for
security
example,
reasons.
For example, the standard port, the standard SSH port is port 22, right? And I do a lot of SSH connections every day. I connect to my Linux machines every day. But for security reasons, we don't use the standard port 22. So we go to the SSH configuration file and we change the port and we put a custom port that only my company knows. So each time we want to do an SSH connection, we'll state the standard port when we're doing that connection. And what is going to happen is that before the connection initiates, it's going to check the configuration file and say, what port are we using? And then it's going to make a communication with that port and say, okay, they have specified the SSH port to a custom port. Instead of the standard 22, they are using port 500, for example. And then it's going to take port 500 and make that connection. But Jonathan, bear in mind that you cannot set a custom port for a standard port that is already in use. What do I mean? I cannot take port 23 that is used for Telnet and set that as my custom port for SSH, whereas SSH uses standard port 22. Does that make sense? You have to find a port that is not in use. So you can even put port 5000. So that's why if you have been reading the notes closely, I told you there are well-known ports from 0 to 1000 and I think 1035, the well-known ports. After that, those are the other ports that after 1035 and up, you can select any of those numbers. You can use those ones as custom ports. But from 1000 all the way to port 0, those ports have standard port numbers that you cannot change.
Okay.
Yes. So I can change port 22 for SSH and I decide to use port 5000 if I want. It's going to work. But I cannot change port 22 for SSH and use SMTP port 25 for SSH. It's going to fail. That connection will never happen. So bear that in mind. That's very, very important information. Great question, Jonathan.
All right, thank you.
So I want everybody to check if they have remote desktop on their machine. So go to the search bar and type RDP if it's going to show up. You're going to see remote desktop connection. I want to make sure everybody sees that. So Kingsley, can you demonstrate that?
Yep, see that.
So click on it. So that is the client you use to make a remote connection to your Windows server. So what do you need for that connection to happen? Who can tell me what you need to put in there?
I think we need the name of the, let me say the server name we need to put, but you also need to allow.
You need the IP address of that server, not the name.
IP, okay.
You need the IP address because remember, computers understand numbers and IPs, right? If you put the host name, it's still gonna work. But before putting the host name, you have to have a DNS record that already defines the host name and the IP address. If you have that, then you can go the host name. If you don't have that, you need to find the IP address of the machine. So what you need to do here is to go to your Windows server and get the IP address of that server. When you get the IP address of the server, you put in the IP address there. And so let's go to our server and get an IP. We all know how to get the IP address of the server, right? Go to your IP, open the command prompt in your IP, type the IP config, get your IP.
You must even have the IP address because we set static IPs to those servers. So you should have written it somewhere.
Even if you haven't written it, assume you didn't write it somewhere or something. We want to do it the standard way because at work you're not going to be writing IPs.
Oh yeah,
so
definitely.
Go to your server, pull your IP, take it to the remote desktop, put in the IP right there.
It will not even work for now because they haven't opened a.
So let's get the IP. After getting the IP, we have to go check to make sure RDP is enabled. And what next? We go check the firewall to make sure RDP is allowed through the firewall.
So to do that, you go to settings to check the first one that Sujata said. You go to settings. In here, this search bar here, you type RDP. You see it's gonna come up right here, remote desktop in settings. You click on there. You have to enable this because automatically you are supposed to be off. You have to put that on, and then pretty much there's nothing in here again. If this was on a domain, it would ask you like you can select the users. You want to add users that they can access this machine. You can add them here. The people that can access this machine. I mean, you specify. That's now you're doing now what they call security wise. You don't want everybody to be able to access that server. You can specify the people that you want them to assign. You add them by going here, add the names in there. I put admin. I can put admin because I have those are the only two users I have. That's admin 1. But I mean, you can just put the names in there and check it. Make sure it collides with the person that you're trying to send. But we're not going to do that. So now you have to make sure this one is on. If that's on, that's fine. You close that. We go now to control panel.
Is everyone there?
Mine says my Windows edition does not support remote desktop.
Okay, so let's go to the next step. So let's go allow it through the firewall, allow the service, then it will support it. So
go control panel. You go to firewalls.
Allow an app through the firewall, the first one.
Yep, right here. You click there. You come in here, look for remote services. You can just hit the R key on your desktop, on your keyboard.
Yes, remote desktop, that's it.
This one right here. See, mine is checked.
Yeah, make sure that is checked, and then you press OK. Because Kingsley is already enabled.
That's why it's great. Yes,
that's why it's grayed out.
They say it says allow another app, so that's all you gotta check.
So
please,
Kingsley, if you want to allow something, you can just show them how.
Like
let's say remote log management, for example.
Yes, that's what I was just about to do. The remote event log, right? I'll check this one.
You have to go to change settings first. Yeah.
So I click change settings. I go now to remote this one and check it. Then you can see it gives you public or private. If you want to make it just private, yes, you can make it public. You can check the public side as well. You can uncheck it. So you can decide that the public can also anybody that log from the public can also, the event log can also capture. Then I'll do here. Okay.
Yeah, I don't have remote desktop on my firewall as part of the apps.
How? What do you mean you don't have it? It's supposed to be there by default.
No, I have remote assistance, remote event log management, remote event monitor, remote schedule task manager, remote service manager, remote shutdown, remote volume management. That's it.
What kind of machine did you buy, Ola?
I bought a gaming laptop so that it will be powerful enough for all these things, but apparently,
yeah, it's a gaming.
Skip one.
It's a gaming laptop, so you see why the purpose is a gaming. You cannot remote gaming into a gaming PC. That's why when you go into the store, they always tell you gaming PCs are gaming PCs and regular PCs are regular, because the gaming PC is built just for gaming.
Yeah,
that's the difference.
So if you are looking for high performance machine, Ola, gaming PCs will have high performance, but if you want to look for a machine that is used in the work environment, so you are looking for a business laptop. Like what I have right here is a business machine. This one right here, it cost me about $3,000, but it's a business machine, right? It will function the same way as a gaming laptop, but it's used for business.
Yes,
when
it
I
has
say
all
business,
the features.
I'm talking about enterprise.
It has all the features that is required for business use, like remote desktop and other stuff. It has all of them.
So Ola, what you need to do, find a YouTube video and watch how to set up RDP on your Windows 10
I think no,
machine.
I think I send them the links. Those links that I send, it should be in there. Okay.
So are we together? Are we on the same page right now? Because we're about to make the connection.
Let me turn on this one first here. I haven't turned it on.
So make sure your server is up and running. Go to your server, pull your IP address, go to your server, do the same thing you just did on your machine, enable remote desktop on your server, and make sure remote desktop is allowed through the firewall of the server. So you are doing that on both ends, both your physical system and on the server.
So please, can I share my machine so you see where I'm going wrong?
You're having issues?
Yes.
Well, let me give you permission. Where is Mr. Bismarck? Go ahead and share. Let's see what's going on over there. Are you sharing?
So Bismarck, what do you need help with?
To establish the remote connection to enable from my own server here so that I can establish the remote connection from my own machine.
Did you pull your IP yet?
Yeah, I have the IP of my server and I have the IP of my local machine.
Okay, so you don't need the IP of your local machine. You need just the IP of the server. So you've enabled RDP on your machine and you've allowed RDP through the firewall on your local machine.
No, that's what I was sharing that you should show it.
Which one are you having issue with from is it the server or is it with your local machine?
Both of them.
Go on your local machine, type go to settings.
Start with the local machine.
Go to settings.
Okay.
Open settings, yes.
Yeah,
Go
I'm on settings.
type RDP. Type RDP in there. RDD. Yeah, go right there. It appears. No, go back. Go cancel 2. Just R. Leave cancel. Leave just R. Cancel the D. Yes. You see up there? Go in the remote desktops. Yes. Click on that.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me see that. So your home edition. So your system has the home edition instead. Go to
Okay, that's the reason.
go to the share the yes, the search bar. Do WinVer. Yes, let me see which one. You're on 20H. All right, close. Go to the File Explorer. Go to File Explorer. Right click on close that one. Yes. Close that. Go to File Explorer. Go this PC. Go to this PC. No. You should have the you also have the sidebar. Just right click on your desktop.
Yeah,
Let me see something. Right click on that. Yeah, right click on.
I just googled it. It's not possible to remote desktop into a home edition because I just tried on my 2 other computers and I had the same error.
So the home edition you need the Pro. So you can always upgrade. You can always upgrade your machine. You can upgrade to a Pro. You can get the Pro from I think online or something like that. The ISO image. You can just go to Microsoft and download the ISO image from there.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's the whole problem. But let me see if mine. You wanna. So you definitely have to get the Pro version.
Okay, can you go back to the remote desktop settings? I think I was reading something there. Bismarck, go back to the remote desktop settings if you can. No, where you were before, not here. You remember where you went and Kingsley told you to type RDP and then you went to the remote desktop settings?
Go to settings. Yeah, go to settings. Go to settings first. Open settings, yes. Go into settings, type there. R. Just put R. Go to that desktop settings.
Okay. So so that is the information you need. You can learn how to upgrade your Windows 10 edition because it says home edition doesn't support remote desktop.
So if you click on that link, it's going to take you to a browser, yes.
You know,
if
you click on this link, it's going to tell you what to do.
The link that says upgrade.
To help solve this problem.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Does anyone else have this problem?
I think all are too.
Yes, I have it too.
Oh, you have the home edition as well?
Yeah.
All my computers are
Are
home
we putting,
edition.
Gerald, are we putting the IP address of the server into the
Yes,
RDP?
Yes, you want to connect to the server. Remember, you are on your local machine. And this is how it's going to be at work. At work, you're going to be using your local machine to make remote connections to servers. You don't know where the servers are, right? So what you need to make the remote connection is the IP address of that server. So
Quick question.
if you go ahead.
I was just going to ask that since we have since we're installing, we have different virtual machines. Can we use that one to remote into each other? Like, can I create like a second virtual machine and then practice this using that? Or does it have to be my primary machine only?
Ola, you're an IT pro right now. You should be trying things. You understand? That's how you can grow, that's how you develop. I like the way you're thinking. That's a very good question.
You can definitely do that.
Things like that.
The things is that all the machines have to be on.
Yeah.
That's all you need.
Yeah, because mine is giving me an error saying the remote, the RDP is not enabled.
Because you have enabled either on your machine or on the server itself. You have to do the same concept as you did on the server or on the local machine. You have to enable it as well too.
I don't understand what you mean by because it says remote access to the server is not enabled.
That means your local machine you have enabled.
The remote computer is turned off.
Okay, so I want us to use this exercise to practice a whole lot of things. So at work, right, you're gonna come across errors like this. Yesterday, you were able to connect to a server without any problem. And today, Jude, that same server that you were able to connect to yesterday, you're doing that RDP connection, and boom, the message that you're telling us about right now pops up in front of you. What are you gonna do? You're not gonna take that message and go to your boss and say, hey boss, yesterday I was able to connect to this remote server, and today I cannot connect to that server. Tell me what to do, right? So we are building troubleshooting skills right now. So we are troubleshooting. So what do you have to do in a situation like that? Maybe you look at the message, it doesn't make sense to you. You don't know how to go about it. This error, what does this error mean? It's saying this thing is not enabled, that thing is not enabled. What do I do, right? If you are not sure what to do, copy that error message
and put it on Google.
And I said, Google is everyone's best friend. In case you don't know, every IT professional uses Google. Every IT professional, no matter how smart you are, you use Google. Copy that error message. So if you got like 3 error messages, Jeff J, put in the first error message you got. Google that and try to get a solution to that problem. Go try it and see if the connection works. If it doesn't work, Google the second message you got. So in a nutshell, you want to Google all the messages, all the error messages, because at work, that's how you will be troubleshooting. You do research. Part of your daily life as an IT professional is doing research. And as you are researching, you are documenting. If you research something and it works, you have to document that solution.
You want to file save it. You want to save the file.
Documentation is very, very important. And the reason why you document, like, for example, when you had the virtualization not enabled on your system and you went and did research and you enabled it, what you're supposed to do after that is document that solution so that if it happens again, you're not going to be like, I encountered this problem before, how did I fix it? And you go and be doing research the second time. Because you've already documented that process, you know how to do it. You just go to the documentation and you look at the documentation and it takes care of it. So documentation is very important. So Jeff J, copy the error message, throw it in Google, and look at the solution that you get from Google, and then try it. If it doesn't still work, come to me, and then I'll take care of it. The reason why we're doing it right now this way is because I'm telling you that we're practicing how a work environment functions. Because if I'm just supposed to say, okay, this is the solution, this is the solution, this is the solution, this is the solution, then you guys are gonna feel like, hey, this thing is easy. There's always gonna be a solution. When you get that first job, you're on your own, right? So we gotta start building the habit of learning how to do research, learning how to troubleshoot, and learning how to fix problems. So throw that error in Google and do some research how people have been able to fix that, and then try that fix on your system, and I guarantee you it's going to work. But like it said, something is not enabled somewhere. You need to go enable remote desktop on the server and on your system, open the firewall on both sides, and it should work.
Mr.
Any question?
You can stop sharing.
My Windows Server internet is not connecting to my computer internet.
It's not connecting to your LAN.
Yeah.
What should you check?
Terminology, please. Let's.
I checked the bridge. I checked them to see if the bridge was actually connected, and it's on the bridge, not on the NAT. So.
Okay. So now we'll go to the next step. What is the next step that you need to check? The idea is there. Just give me the concept. I know you have the idea. It's right there.
Bismarck, you can stop sharing.
Oh,
no, sir, let me not stop.
I wanted to check the nick, if the nick is enabled.
No, that's not it.
Firewall, not the firewall.
Let me just ask you this simple question. Did you configure your server to have a static IP?
Yes, I did.
Okay, go check that. You're missing something in there, that's why. You should be missing something in there that you haven't configured right. That's why you're not having. If the machine is breached, you should have done something in there that that will not allow you to get the internet connection. Go to that IP setting. Make sure the IP setting matches.
Okay.
And if you're having problem troubleshooting networking issues, right, Faith, and you do your best, do some research. Like I said, anytime you face an issue at work, here is the way to go. The first thing, as an IT professional, what are you dealing with? You are dealing with the error message. They're gonna ask you, what is the error message? Even if a user calls you and tell you over the phone, you are doing troubleshooting over the phone. And remember, sometimes you'll be talking to non-technical people, and they are explaining these things in layman terms.
Yeah, he's just doing this. This
is going on. I try to connect, and you as an IT professional, the first thing you want to ask them is, what is the error message? What error message are you getting?
Even they're gonna give you the error message.
Somebody
just
say my computer is not connecting, or that doesn't help you as an IT professional. You want to work with the error message you are getting. So you tell that person to find the error message, because if you are doing a connection and it's failing, there will be an error message. An error will pop up to say connection timed out or unable to connect because of this. There will be a reason why. And you want to go to that error message, copy that error message, throw it in Google.
You get an answer.
You will get a solution, and you will tell you exactly why, and you will be able to get a fix. But if you try all that, it doesn't work, Faith, don't give yourself headache. Pull your ISO, build another virtual machine very fast, connect it, life continues.
All right, guys, let's run through this one real quick, because this is very, very important. Let's do rate, then we'll come back to the other one. So remember, we've been talking about rates all the way from the beginning till we finally come to it today. So rate is something, it's a technology that is used to increase the performance and or reliability of data storage. When they say performance and reliability, that means what? It has to do, like, it manages storage, like it try to balance a load. It's like a load balancing. Like if you have a scale and they put something on the scale, start going this way, you have the rates now in place now to like make it back to come back even. So you have a performance. Your performance stays unlimited on a limited speed. Because when you start getting like too much, like if you start getting like too much saturation of data in one side, is going to weigh down, and when it weighs down, the machine now start becoming slow. And you hear people say like, oh, I'm not able to access this file from the server because why? There's too much data on one side, and then the drive is almost about to full. So what helps you for the drives in the server, for them to never get full? This is it right here. It's RAID technology. RAID technology, it does what they call clustering. So it copies the data and clone it somewhere else, and then take half of it and save it. That's how it backs it up. Then remove the one from the main one. It reduces it so you can have a balancing. Keeps that weight on a scale. So it's just like doing scaling. Like if you have a scale, like you weigh one side, you always want to keep that load on it even. So that's what RAID does. And the RAIDs that we're going to look at in this class for right now, we're going to do RAID 0, RAID 5, and RAID 10. I think RAID 1 is involved too. Yes, 0, 1, 5, and 10. Those are the ones that we're going to look at because those are the most important ones. Don't worry about RAID 6. RAID 6 is just there, just so you know that there's a RAID 6. But those ones are not really they're not really relevant at the moment because they're not really that important. They're not being used often. But if you want to go more into it, you can always do researches. There are more RAIDs that we have, but these are the ones that we look at because these are the important ones that you use almost every day in a working environment. So it says the technology that is reliable to data storage. The abbreviation stands for either redundant array or independent drive. It stands for independent drive or redundant array of inexpensive
independent disk.
Yes.
Or expensive disk.
Yeah. Because an expensive disk though.
Because they are using SSDs, so that's why.
Yeah. And you know,
SSDs
drives are not cheap. That's why they say it's an expensive disk. That's why you see only corporations that will use them. And if we go to next slide, this is just the definition of it, and it's just showing you what exactly we're going to go through. If I take you guys the next slide, RAID software to perform the RAID functionalities and control drive can either be located on a separate controller card or a hard RAID controller, or it can simply be a drive, some version of Windows, such as Windows Server 2012, as well as Mac OS, include software RAID functionalities. So it's just telling you the software that you carries a RAID. So you see, they said they specify the Windows 2012 servers. That means anything after 2012 server manages RAID. They all uses RAID, and it tells you the kinds of disks, the kind of drives that that works with them with RAID. We have the SATA, we have SCSI, we have the IDE, we have fiber optic too, fiber channels. They all uses RAID. This one is just information. So this is RAID 0. You can see they have a diagram of the RAID on the side, and RAID 0 is just stripping. Stripping simply means it has it does not. I think it doesn't have redundancy. Stripping means you just take the data, it clones it to the other one. It takes the data, clones to the other one. So both of them are getting filled at the same time. It says in RAID 0, system data are split up into blocks that gets written across all the drives. In this array, by using multiple disks, at least 2. The minimum is at least 2. You cannot use one disk for RAID 0. Because why? It takes a data. It splits the data. That means it breaks the data into 2 sides. The data are being saved into 2 sides. It does not save in one side. That means if you lose one side, you cannot recover the other side. If I lose data from here, this side is useless. If I lose the data from here, this side is useless because half of the data here, half of it here. So you need both of them to make the data one. When data is being stored, that's why they don't use RAID 0, because RAID 0 is not good for enterprise businesses and stuff like that. If you have a small, you can use RAID 0 for like your small business, your local area in your house. You can use that for your house because you don't really necessarily need it. But when it comes to companies, you cannot use RAID 0. You cannot use RAID 1 as well. But we'll get to RAID 1. So it says at least the same time. It says at least two drives are needed at the same time. This offers a superior I/O performance. The performance can be enhanced further by using multiple controllers, ideally on controllers per disk. They said the ideal use for RAID 0 is for non-critical storage. That means if you don't have critical information that you're storing, you can use RAID 0. of data that must be read and write at a high speed, such as on an image, retouching or video editing. You can use RAID 0 because it has high speed of read and write. It stores stuff just temporarily, and like it's just like almost like a RAM. Almost like a RAM. It says if you want to use RAID 0 purely for combine the storage capacity to tweak drives in a single volume, consider multiple one drives in the folder part of the other drive. That means you see how it has here, it has block 1 here, it has block 2 here, it has block 3 here, it has block 4 here. So, but whereas why is that it did not just have block 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here, block 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and other? No, they split it because the data is being broken. So if this drive gets corrupt, if block 1 gets corrupt, block 2 cannot function, block 3 cannot function, block 4 cannot function, block 5 cannot function. So it goes like that. That's why they say it's not really that good for business use. And if you come down here, it shows you the disadvantages and advantages of RAID 0. The advantage is that RAID 0 offers great performance, both in read and write operations. That means if you're doing a quick video editing, if you're doing like what we're doing right now, like a class presentation, all the stuff, you can use RAID 0 because why? It just temporarily right there, read operation. This is no overhead caused by parity control. All storage capacity is used. There is no overhead. That's exactly what I just mean. Like all storage capacity is used. That means A is used, B is used, C is used, D is used. If you don't have the same way it has go drive 1, like on the other slide, you have drive 1 here. If this drive 1 is broken, the rest are broken because all of it is being used. All of this is being used. And it says here the disadvantage for RAID 0 is that it's not fault tolerance. Fault tolerance means that's what I just explained. Fault tolerance, that means if one is broken, the rest are broken. But if you have fault tolerance, if one is broken, the drive has been cloned to another one that the data is still going to be on the other side, but this side is broken. You can refix that side and life continues with the other side. It's simply what they say, clustering. And RAID 0 is very easy to implement. It's right there in your it says following are key points to remember. So these are something like when I say key points, that means these are things that you want to always keep in mind about RAID 0. All of them have their own key points. Minimum of 2 disks, as I said earlier. Excellent performance as the blocks are stripped. It has no redundancy, as I remember I told you guys earlier. We're going to get into redundancy. You guys don't know. No, it has no mirroring, no parity. Does not use. Don't use this for any critical systems. Critical system, like let's say if you have a file server, you cannot use RAID 0. If you have a file storage server, you can use RAID 0. If you have what else? There's a whole bunch that you cannot use it with. And now this is RAID 1. Data are stored twice by reaching them to both drives. So see how the difference is. In the other one, data were being stripped. But in this one, it says mirroring. That means the data, when it says stripped, that means the data is being broken, both sides. But now this one, what is on this drive is equal to what is on this drive, on this side. That means the data is being stored in both sides evenly. That means if data comes here, if it's stored on this side, it clones on the other side. It stores on this side, it clones on the other side. That's why you see here, you have block 1 here, you have block 1 here. If this block is broken, the rest are fine. You don't have no problem. If this one is broken, the rest are fine because there's already a backup here. There's already a backup in this one. So if this one breaks, this side can still continue. It's just going to be using the other side while they're trying to fix the other side. So that's why they call it mirroring, because it's mirroring everything that is being stored on. If you save anything on this block, it's being mirrored to this other one. It's just like you standing in front of a mirror and looking at yourself. That's example, just a quick example. Anything that you see here, if you touch your face here, you see the same thing is happening on the other side. So if I store data in this drive right here, the data that I store in here is going to be in this one too as well. If you go in this drive, you're going to find it. If this one breaks, that's fine. The data is still in this one. From the last data that you stored, it's going to be here. So it says data being stored twice and written in both of the drives on set of data drivers or set of data drivers. and a mirror drive or set of drives. If a drive fails, the controller uses either the data drive or the mirror drive. Exactly what I just explained. That means if data fails in this one, if you fail to access data on this one, you can access it from this one. Because the same thing that's in here, the same thing that's in here too. It's just mirrored. I mean, it's just that you have two files that have the same name, almost similar to the same name, but everything's being cloned to the other one. Like you just copy here and paste here, copy here and paste here, copy and paste here, but you have the copy, the other person has the copy. So this is exactly what I mean by mirroring. It says ideally used for RAID 1. RAID 1 is ideally used for mission critical storage, for instance, for accounting systems. It is also suitable for small servers in which only 2 data drives will be used. So if you have like a small local area in your house, you can use it for this. Accounting system, why? Because when you deal with accounting, you always want to have a backup somewhere. Let's say you were doing an Excel sheet of expenditures for this week, and you're doing that Excel sheet. At some point, you do not save it, and it breaks like the way my PowerPoint break that last time. If I had a RAID 1 setup in my system, I would have a copy of that. That was automatically going to save on its own. You don't have to go do it manually. I would have had a copy of it. So that's the reason why they say it's good for accounting, because it's a critical, like a mission critical. When somebody's doing finance and other stuff, they want to always make sure they save. You might be saving thinking that you're saving, but it's not saving. But when you lose the data, you know where you can find it. It's going to be in the mirror drive of RAID 1. And if we go next slide, so these are the advantages and disadvantages of RAID 1. We have RAID 1 offers an excellent read speed and write speed that is compatible to that of a single drive. In case a drive fails, data do not have to be rebuilt. They just must be copied from the replacement drive. That means if a data fails from this drive, you can just copy from here. After you rebuild this drive, you can copy from here and put it back here. As simple as that. Oh, this one is the wrong image here. Sorry, guys. I put the wrong image here, but I'm going to correct it if I send you guys a video. Because that's RAID 5 block instead. Oh, it's gone too fast. Yeah, I did a mistake and put the wrong slide here. But it's just exactly the same thing here. I was just making it look fun. So the disadvantages for this one, it says the main disadvantage is that the effect storage capacity is only half of the total drive capacity, because all data got written twice. That means the data has been written, as I said earlier, it's been written in 2 places. So it's going to have less storage. So software RAID 1 solution do not allow a hot swap for a failed drive. Because why? The data is being mirrored. So if you want to do a hot swap, data is not going to be on the other side too as well.
You know what a hot swap is? So you hear the term hot swap a lot. So hot swap simply means you go into a server room, you see the drive, the various stack of drives right there. If you go into a server room, I know none of you have been to a server room before, but you look at where the drives are, they're going to be stacked one on the other. You see the RAID, they are in stacks, different drives stacked one above the other. And if you look at the drives, any drive that is active and working, it's always going to be blinking green. You're going to see a green light blinking on that drive.
Yep.
If a drive fails, it's going to start blinking red. So for example, if you have a RAID 5, for example, and one drive in the cluster fails, you have to go and do a hot swap. It means you have to go into the server room, grab the drive that is failed, you pull it, you swap it, you pull it out of that server, and then you replace it with another drive. You don't shut the server down. So the server is still running. You just switch the disk. But when you are doing hot swapping, you always want to make sure that disks are of the same size. So if the failed disk is 300 gigabytes, for example, make sure you are replacing it with another 300 gigabytes. You don't shut down the server. You see the disk blinking red to indicate that the disk is failed. So there are some tool clips. If you go into a server room to replace that disk, you hold the tool clips and you snap, and it's gonna release the disk. You pull it out, you take the disk that you have to replace it, you push it in, and then you snap it back. That's known as hot swapping. As soon as you do that, the data that was on the failed disk is gonna be written on the new disk that you are swapping. Is that clear? Is that complicated, or should I explain again? Is my explanation clear?
Silence means yes.
Bismarck, Faith, Jude, I need somebody to communicate.
The explanation is clear, but I think more practical will make sense.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, because we don't have a server room here, so
yeah, if we had a server room, would have shown you.
The best way to find out is to watch a YouTube video, but it's straightforward. Like,
yeah,
at work, when you go into a server room, you're gonna have like stack of drives, right? And say, for example, I have this drive right here. It's a 300 gig drive, and I go into a server room and I see one disk in the cluster that's blinking red, indicating that the disk is filled. You have to hot swap that disk. You have to pull it out and push in the new disk that you're about to replace, that you are replacing with. That is simply what hot swapping is. It's a very easy process. You just take out and
plug and play.
It. Yeah, it's like plug and play.
Yep.
Pull out this one and you pull in the new one. But you want to make sure you don't want to replace 500 gigabyte disk with a 10 gigabyte disk. It's not going to make any sense.
No.
Because if 500 gigabyte data has been stored on the 500 gigabyte disk and you are replacing with the disk that is 10 gigabyte, how is it going to write 500 gigs of data on the 10 gigabyte disk? So you want to do the same size.
And then now we have RAID 5. RAID 5 that it says it comes with stripping and parity. So what that simply means is that the most common secured RAID level is required at least 3 drives, but can work with up to 16. So that means this drive can use up to 16, but it requires minimum. The minimum for RAID 5 in minimum is 3 drives. Minimum for RAID 2 and RAID 1 and RAID 0. The minimum drives that is required for those ones are 2 drives. That's a minimal. And for RAID 5, the minimal drives that is required is 3. 3 being that what? And we're going to see it. It says data blocks are stripped across the drive, and on one drive, a parity checksum of all the block data is written. The parity data are not written to a fixed drive. They are spread across all drives. You see, this is parity right here. If you look at the diagram, you have parity, B4, B3, B2, B1, and it's mixed. It's spread across all the drives because why? It says it here to not fixed on a fixed drive. They are spread across all drives. As the drawing below, which is on the side, don't mind my writing, but it was below side and same thing. Using the parity data, the computer can recalculate the data of one of the other data blocks. Should those data no longer be available, that means a RAID 5 array can withstand a single drive failure. That means I can withstand one of these drives can fail without no problem for the others, because everything is being written across the data evenly. It's written evenly across these ones. It says where were we losing without data across, so or across to data. Although RAID 5 can be achieved in software, a hardware controller is recommended. Often extra cache memory is used on this controller to improve the writing performance. Ideally used, it's a good all-around system that combines efficiency, storage with excellent security and decent performance. It is ideally for file and application servers. You see how they specify it. It's good for a file server and an application server, because you don't want to have application on the server, then tomorrow you're trying to find the application is missing. You cannot find it. But whereas if you had RAID 5 on that server, it simply clones that application into multiple places that if you don't find it on this drive, you can always go to this next drive, you'll see it there. As easy as that. Say it has a limit number of data drives.
Senior Kingsley.
Yes, Mr. Jonathan.
One quick question. So the RAID, is it the same as like storage? or
RAID is
they're
like
two different things?
RAID is like RAID is like an application that money is like an automated tool. I can put it. Let me put it that way. That is like an automated tool. For instance, that it does like drive like data sharing. Like if you have a file server sitting in the server room, right? And it has that file server has about 50 to 60 drives on that file server. 50 to 60 drives that you guys are storing information every day on that file server. That file server also that is sitting there, it has a clone somewhere in the wall in a different in still part of the company. They can put a clone server somewhere in the wall where as data are being stored on that file server, this RAID 5 now is the one that takes that data, ship it.
Oh, okay.
It ships it over to the other data center that you guys have, and it clones everything that you guys are saving here. It clones it over there as well, just in case that, let's say, if you guys have a power outage in this part of the company down here, and people are still working in the other side of the company, but they need to access data, and you guys have all your eggs in one basket. The company is going to be down for like a couple of months, and which is not good for companies. So they always, and that does not, this example does not imply just for file servers or application servers. It implies for every servers in the company. All your servers that I have in the company, they have a clone somewhere. Like you guys remember, I was showing you guys my domain controller for my company. We have about multiple domain controllers, just in case if one fails, the other domain controller can take effect.
Okay.
It's the same thing to that goes here. The same concept.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my guess is, so they use this also for data centers, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Every data center.
Every data center has RAID 5.
You have.
Okay.
There is some kind of RAID.
That is
in fact,
used.
every work environment, like this RAID concept is very, very important. And I guarantee you, when you start interviewing, they'll ask you about RAID, right? Pay attention to RAID 0, RAID 1, and RAID 5. Those are the three that you come across at interviews a lot. They'll ask you what is RAID 0, what is RAID 1, what is RAID 5. Those are the three that you want to really, really, really understand and talk about. But the whole thing about RAID, it falls under volume management, right? And volume, when you're talking about volume management, you're actually dealing with storage, right? So you will not only be doing RAIDs on disk, you can also do storage on partition. So you take, let's say you combine this together and you have 50 terabytes of this that you've combined together to make one huge volume. You can now partition that volume into different independent disks and use those disks independently and form RAIDs.
Right.
So they can ask you, what do you understand by RAID? You know, your simple answer to that question could be, RAID is used in volume management because once you think about RAID, three things should come in mind. One, increased performance and storage. Two, redundancy and availability. And then three, what is the third one? Who can complete it?
Cloning.
Cloning will fall under what?
Redundancy.
Exactly. So the three things you should think of when you're talking about RAID is redundancy, performance, and storage. Those are the three things that should come in mind. And if you look at the different RAID classes from RAID 0, what are you trying to achieve when you are doing RAID 0? RAID 0, what you want is storage. You have 10 gigabytes, right, of one storage device. You have another 10 gigabytes of another storage device. If you bring the two together, it's going to be 20 gigs. So you've increased storage, which in other words, you've also increased performance. But what is the downside? The downside to that is that there is no backup. So if you are doing RAID 0, the first thing you want to think about is do your backup. Always be taking backups because RAID 0 has no backup.
Yep.
But you increase Storage, you increase performance because 10 plus 10 equals 20. You've increased the size. Now, RAID 1. Let's go to now, that was RAID 0. RAID 1, what are you trying to achieve with RAID 1? Who can tell me? Okay, let me not make you think too much. Let's not waste time.
Yeah.
RAID 1 is redundancy, disk mirroring. You have 2 disks. You want data that is put on this drive to be stored. The same data should have the same copy on the second drive. Anything I do here should appear on the second drive.
Yep.
So think of a mirror copy of yourself. Anything you are doing here, it should mirror the same thing on the other drive. So that if one drive fails, you have an exact copy of all the information on the second drive. That is a mirror. That is what you achieve with RAID 1. But what is the downside to that? The downside to RAID 1 is there is no performance, right?
Less performance, yes.
You lose storage because you don't have a lot of disk space. Like RAID 0, when you've combined 2 disks to create a bigger volume, RAID 1, you don't have that big volume here. You're just doing a mirror. So you lose performance and storage, but you gain redundancy.
No, it says it has some.
That is RAID 1.
It has
but
good.
Now let's go now to RAID 5. RAID 5 is going to give you everything. It's going to give you redundancy. It's going to give you storage. It's going to give you performance. And it's going to give you parity. Parity is very important when you talk about RAID 5. So parity is there. If information fails, parity is going to help reconstruct the failed information if you hot swap and put in a new disk. It is parity that will do that. We're talking about hot swapping. If this fails in a data center and you're going to hot swap that disk, and you insert a new disk, and you take out the disk that is failed, and you insert a new disk. Information that was stored on that disk that fails is just going to be written on the new disk that you are putting in. One makes that possible. Parity.
So let's say for instance this. You see how you see this 4 disks in here. Let's say this one fail out, right? And this is parity right here. If this block fails out, and then you have to swap that disk. As you swap that disk, parity is going to clone everything that was from this B1 and bring it back to the new C1 that you've inserted. It's going to clone everything from new B1 and clone it right there. As if there was no change. That's what parity does. And RAID 5 also is good for businesses because why? It has a redundancy, as you says, performance too wise. Very good.
Yeah, so every business out there want to go with RAID 5. So if you're interviewing and they're asking you what type of RAID do you have in your environment, you want to talk about RAID 5 very fast.
Don't even mention RAID 0.
You tell them why you are using RAID 5. You're not explaining as if you read it somewhere. You're saying that in your environment, you guys have RAID 5 set up. And they'll ask you, why do you have RAID 5 set up? And you explain to them what RAID 5 does, because you want parity. If a disk fails, you want to hot swap and have parity, write that information to the new disk.
Without even no problem.
Yeah. So that is it about RAID, guys. It's not a complicated topic. It's straightforward. Know the different rates. RAID 0, what RAID 0 does, advantage and disadvantage. Know RAID 1, what RAID 1 does, advantage and disadvantage. Know RAID 5, what RAID 5 does, advantage and disadvantage. RAID 10, you don't need to worry about it.
RAID 10 actually is not actually called RAID 10 though. It's a combination of RAID 1 and RAID 0. That's why they just call it RAID 10.
Exactly. So, which takes us back to RAID 0, RAID 1, and RAID 5.
Right.
Those are the 3 most important. You know, that is it. It's a straightforward topic, but you come across it a lot in interviews.
Yeah. I mean, this is what I prepared for today though. And for Office for 365, I didn't really do that much about 365, but I was going to explain to you guys about the difference between forests and a tree. That has to do with Active Directory. So Active Directory, when you talk about a forest, as I explained to you guys last class, in Active Directory, it says here, I just got to read it from my note, guys, because it's been a while I use forest. But I gave you guys the layman term. I'm going to make a note for this and send it to you guys too as well for the Windows side. So simply, it says a tree. It's a collection of domains. That's a tree. That means a tree can have multiple domains underneath. Like you remember when I told you guys about when we're doing the domain controller, you can have multiple domain controller. And the one that I showed you guys in my work environment, the one that we have there, that's a tree. Like they have multiple domains. We had about it was like 10 or 11 domain controllers. That's actually a tree. Just take it by the way the name says it, a tree. A tree has multiple branches. But in Active Directory way, that's not how exactly it looks like, because it's a combination of like multiple domains in one environment. Let me put it that way. So a tree is a combination of multiple domains in one environment. I mean, a tree has you can have, like, you see how we have the multiple domains in one environment. That's what we call a tree. A forest now, in the other hand, a forest is a combination of trees. So you can tell what the definition says. A combination of trees. That means you can have multiple trees in a forest, which makes sense in the sense that one tree has multiple domains and one forest has multiple trees. So one tree in a forest has multiple domains. If you have 5 trees in that forest, yes, 5 trees in that forest, that means you have that let's okay, you have 5 trees, right? Each of those trees each of them have like 10 domain under them, and you have 5 of them. That makes a forest, because now the forest is there with those trees in it. Each of them has 10 domains. So 10 times 5, that's almost about 25. You have almost 25, or someone, because it's 50. Yeah, 10 times 5 is 50, sorry. So that means you have 50 domains in that controller in there. So if somebody asks you like, oh, what is a forest? It's simply a combination of trees. They'll ask you now, what is a tree? It's a collection of domains. So a tree houses multiple domains. Why? A forest, it houses multiple trees. And I know I was going to tell you a little bit about Office 365. I don't know if I mentioned Office 365 because I haven't really used the console, because we have an admin that manages that. But some working environments, you have one person that manages Active Directory and also manage Office 365. But if you go to big companies that they have too much money, I can say, let me put it that way, that they have too much money that they can always hire the resources of like an Office 365 admin. They will always do that. You always see them have like a one person that manage the Active Directory side, because another person to manage 365. 365 doesn't just have to do with just creating users account and whatnot. It has to also do with migrations. There's something they call migration of users mailbox for Office. When you migrate, let's say you migrate users mailbox from on-prem to 365 cloud. That means you're taking it from an actual server and putting it into a cloud base. That means you guys don't have nothing to do again with that. If it has to do with storage, you guys don't have nothing to do with that. They have people that manages that, because you guys are paying money for that services. That's when you guys will get into AWS, you understand more of that concept that I'm trying to say. So different people manages that services, but you have to know that you deal with migrations, migration users mailbox. When they say migration user mailbox, take it as like this. Let me open my Outlook mailbox to see something. Let me open my company Outlook mailbox so you guys can see exactly what I'm saying. So this is my Office 365 Outlook mailbox right here. And in this mailbox, you can see that you think that it's just a mailbox. Yes, we have emails there. It doesn't mean that it's just emails. But this is what we're talking about, mailboxes. You see my account? That's my account right there. I have drop downs under my account. So to make sure that if I log in into another machine, I have all my tabs. Like, I don't even have nothing right here. If you go into people that works in HR, finance, and the other departments, they have like tons of them. Because why? They have shared drives also in here. They also have shared mailbox. Because this is my mailbox, I can also have this. I have this mailbox, which is a shared mailbox right here for my company, because I'm part of a certain department that was a diversity something that they call it. So I have my own shared mailbox. I see emails from that mailbox too as well. You see how mine has my own email box in there? That's my account, my user account. All this is being managed in the back end from Office 365 admin console. That's what I call it. Office 365 admin console. And when they say migrating, you're migrating a user's mailbox, and in there's what they call, you set delegations. You set permissions also in the Office 365 console. You can set a delegation that, okay, me that I'm here, I can have a delegation here that says, when my boss is out of the office, all of my boss's email comes to me, so I can reply them. Whoever is under the next person, as it go by my managerial positions, it can say, okay, all my boss's emails redirect to this person when my boss is out of office, maybe on a vacation or something. And by you doing that, you are the one that's going to do it in the admin console side of it, because he's not the boss. Like, he can set it by himself too, but that's supposed to be done like on the back end. That's where you set delegations and permissions. You can set permission that, okay, I want just specific people to be able to see this person's mailbox. I want just specific people to be able to get access to this drive right here. And that's what they say when it comes to migration in Office 365 is something that is just like it's something that's too, which is very, very important, because when you're migrating mailboxes, you don't want to migrate them when users are using them. It's going to take forever. Let's say you have 5,000 users in a company that you need to migrate those mailboxes to an Office 365 cloud-based from an on-prem server, because they also have what they call in Office 365, right? There's something that they call Exchange Server, Microsoft Exchange Server. Exchange servers are servers that are used just to manage just mailboxes. Exchange Server, there's Exchange Server, I think it's 2012, they have 2016. The last one that I encountered was 2019. It goes the same way like we have Windows servers 2012. We have Exchange servers too. It's called Microsoft Exchange Server. If you want to do a research on it, you can always do a research on it. It's called Microsoft Exchange Server. They have 2012 version, they have 2016 version, and they also have the 2019 version. Those are the servers that you install on. They have their own platform. You install those servers in a working environment. That's what we call the on-prem. Those servers are used to manage just email accounts like my Outlook, Office email accounts, and other stuff. Excel, PowerPoint, all those users' mailboxes. But when you have them on-prem, sometimes you can have a disaster. Disaster can happen in a company where people will lose. You can lose a server. But when you have them on a cloud-based is way more easier, because why? You don't have to worry about storage. Like, oh, the Exchange server is running out of storage, and each person needs at least this amount of gig for their Outlook or something to use. And mind you, when you have an Office account, you have a maximum amount of storage that is assigned to that account. If you go above that storage size, if the company needs to add you more storage size, they'll need to purchase you another one. So if I show you this, if I go here, I go to my accounts right here. I go to add account settings. This is my email account right here. All right, I can double click on it. It's going to show me the size. This is the size that I have. It says download email for pass. It showed the full size. Sometimes people, their email accounts usually go above this. They go above this actual size that they give, because that size is actually like I think, let me see if I go more so you can see more of it. I don't think I can see from here. Let me see. It has somewhere that you can see the actual size. Oh, okay. It's here. You see? It says my mailbox setting right here. So I have 100 gig. You see right here? It's just like a whole computer on its own. So you have like a drive that is save all your emails and everything. It says here 99 out of so 97.3 has been I have 97.3 free space out of 99. That means I've not even used nothing of my Outlook space. But I'm telling you, in the company, they have departments that they're almost here. And if you need to add that space, they need to purchase a new one from Microsoft. So for us not to deal with all that problem, that's why they migrate everything to Office 365. Because why? If you start running out of space, we have people that manages that it's not even the company, not from the company, it's a whole third-party company. Third party that they manage all this. You don't have to worry anymore again. But if you have the on-prem server, which was the Exchange 2016 or 2019 server on-prem, that houses all this email, when it start getting full, Now you hear to call a system admin or an exchange admin to run. Can you go check the exchange server? It's running out of space. That's when you start buying more disks and adding. But you're gonna at some point you're gonna calculate that you spend more money on buying this than you just paying a third party that have an Office Office 365 cloud base, and you migrate all your users and their mailboxes to the Office 365 cloud, and you don't worry about it. All they give you is a one fixed price. Every year you pay that fixed price and you get it over with. So this is like these are some of the concepts that works behind Office 365, and I'll try as much as possible to make a note, and I'll set.
Yeah, Kingsley, if you can come up with some few notes on Office 365, point us to some right resources.
I have them actually here in a written part, but I'm going to make a PowerPoint of it and share it in a Google Drive. I have some of them right here. I'll make it there, put examples and stuff.
If you do that, we'll really appreciate it. Thanks so much, Kingsley. We've gone way above time today.
I know.
And I think we should end here for today so we don't creep too much into people's time. But before we sign up, I just wanted to, first of all, I always appreciate you guys for staying back and getting all this extra knowledge. Is because we're about to round up with Windows. We've been slowing down because of the way we've been doing things. But yesterday, I promised that we're going to go online, pull up one job on Indeed, and just look at what the job requirement is asking us, right? And see if we're familiar with those things and see if we can apply for these jobs, right? On Wednesday, I will come to class with a sample resume, and we'll talk about resumes on Wednesdays and how to build your resume, how to put it together, how to construct it, and then I'll give you guys a week to set up your resumes, send to Kingsley and I. We'll go through and we'll vet those resumes.
Yeah. We'll tell you what
when your resume is vetted, then it is ready to go online. But let me just quickly share my screen and let's look at some of the things that I found online. Okay, so you guys can see my screen, right? So I just Googled Windows Server admin, and then I just they asked me where. I just put Boston, right? So, and some things came up. So this one is not even a server admin. Look at this. It's a help desk administrator, which is even lower than a Windows admin. This is a help desk. You are doing help desk work, and they are paying between $19 and $25 an hour for a help desk position. Help desk guys, they don't do anything. You're just sitting there. They tell you, okay, this Kingsley, you are muted.
All they do is like they just redirect ticket. They take the ticket, they listen to your complaint. When you complain, if they can solve it, they solve it. If they cannot solve it, they escalate it to the next level. That's how it goes. And they pay you $25 an hour.
Look at what they're asking for a help desk position, right? High school diploma or equivalent. They're asking for 1 year. And then let's look at the job description. Say you monitor service tickets in the queue, like when tickets come into the ticketing system, you just monitor them. I know that tickets are there. You answer phone calls. You resolve client issues that can handle in 5 minutes when the problem is first reported, within 5 minutes when the problem is reported. You image and deploy workstation and perform minor computer repairs and upgrades. You escalate complex and overdue tickets. So the help desk guys who escalate it to the Windows Server admin. So these are the guys that are below the Windows Server admin. Okay, you track on time ticket basis for timely client invoicing, documentation, like I said, document problem solutions. That's what I was telling Jude earlier, you know, and then look at what they're asking for. Skills, knowledge of Windows operating system, multiple versions, knowledge of TCP IP networks, knowledge of firewalls, Sonic Wall Plus, knowledge of Microsoft Active Directory and networks, knowledge of Microsoft Exchange Server and Outlook clients, knowledge of Microsoft Office Suite, knowledge of ConnectWise, PSA, and LabTech software is a plus. And that is it. So is there anyone who can tell me that they can do this job? I need everybody to unmute at this point. We're not, class is over. We are just looking at this.
Yeah, let me stop recording.
I can't just do it because of the pay.